A searing hot feeling filled Chen Heng's mind. His body was racked with immense pain, and a strange dizzying sense filled his brain. If it was just physical pain, it would not be a big deal. After all, with Chen Heng's willpower, mere physical pain was not a big deal. What was excruciating was the mental pain. Chen Heng had much experience with physical pain, and through his training and experiences, he had become quite used to it. However, it was the first time that he had endured such immense mental pain before. An incredibly intense pain spread out, and he felt a massive hammer had smashed into his brain. It was suffocatingly painful, and he felt as if his mind was going to explode. A hazy feeling spread out, and he almost lost consciousness. Fortunately, in the end, Chen Heng was able to endure it. After enduring the worst of the pain, it quickly dissipated. Mind appraisal complete. A strange voice sounded in his mind. This voice was hoarse and low, like an old man was speaking. Hearing this voice, Chen Heng instinctively frowned, and before he could react, he sensed a change. Large amounts of information quickly flooded into his mind, making his mind hazy. This kind of feeling was quite special. Chen Heng even temporarily forgot about the pain in the body and was completely lost in the feeling. Only after a while did he come back to his senses and go through the information in his mind. In his mind was a mental meditation technique. Through the mental meditation technique, one could use one's mind to simulate runes and create rune seeds, improving their mental seed. After the rune meditation was completed, using one's mental energy to capture an energy seed and fuse it into one's body using special techniques, one could create a magic seed. Various traces of information flashed in Chen Heng's mind. After a while, he came back to his senses. Sorcerer. This was the legacy of a sorcerer. What Chen Heng did not expect was that within this historical remnant, he did not obtain information about sorcerers and had instead obtained something much more valuable: the legacy of a sorcerer. According to the information, rune meditation was the foundation for a sorcerer and the beginning of everything. The massive mental pressure that Chen Heng had faced before was a test. Only those with strong mental energy and willpower could take that first step, which was meditation. If one's mind was not tough enough, when one touched the crystal ball, one would die from that mental pressure. In other words, for Chen Heng to be able to pass the crystal ball's test and obtain this information, it meant that he had a sufficiently strong mind. A test for the mind. Chen Heng felt quite surprised. Including the previous simulations, he had lived many lives by now. These many lives had given him much experience, as well as had greatly sharpened his mind. Perhaps this was why he had been able to pass this test. He began to go through more of the information in his mind. The information seemed deeply etched in his mind, as if it was carved there. He could not forget it even if he wanted to. What a convenient skill! Chen Heng felt both amazed and wary. The information told him that this skill had the chance to deal permanent mental damage to the user. In other words, the more one used this skill, the higher chance that the user could become mentally disabled. Fortunately, even though Chen Heng's physical strength was almost gone, his mind was still quite strong. Let's try this out. Chen Heng did not hesitate and sat down cross-legged as he began to try it out. He started to try to sense his mental energy, but he could not do so. Sensing one's mental energy required one to do so in a calm manner within a stable environment. Chen Heng did not have any of these right now. He was currently heavily injured and the pain from his body and mind spread, disturbing his consciousness and making it so that he could not fully go into meditation. Moreover, he did not have much time left. After trying it out a bit, Chen Heng opened his eyes in frustration and walked out. He did not have much time left and could die at any moment. If Chen Heng was not a great knight and had extreme control over his body, he would not have been able to move since long ago, and he could only lie on the ground and wait for death. He used his last bit of strength to go outside and bury Crudo's body, and he made a simple gravestone for him before collapsing. Two mighty knights lay on the ground together. However, while Chen Heng could bury Crudo's body, he could not do the same for himself. The simulation has concluded. Calculating final score. You killed many people as well as saved many people. You changed many people's destinies. Many people who should have died, lived. Many people who should have lived, died. You were a mighty king and a flawless knight. Overall evaluation, excellent. Calculation concluded. Your final points score, 3210. Many lines appeared before Chen Heng's eyes. Within the silent room, Chen Heng slowly opened his eyes. Chen Heng looked around at the familiar room, but after everything that had happened, it was unavoidable that it felt a bit strange. It had only been a short amount of time in the real world, but for Chen Heng, he had gone through many decades. He had lived for longer than he had in the real world. As such, it was only natural that things would feel quite strange. However, it didn't matter, he would be able to readjust with a bit of time. Thinking to the, Chen Heng looked ahead of him. The lines of words had disappeared, and they had been replaced by a massive prize wheel. It was the same as the first time. It's this thing again, Chen Heng thought to himself, and he did not hesitate to spin it. Like he had expected, he had received much in this simulation. He had obtained more than 3,000 points, which was about 30 times what he had obtained the first time. With so many points, it would not be a big deal to spin the wheel a few times. 20 points were deducted, and the pointer began to spin before slowing down and stopping. You have obtained Night Kalin's Night Talent. Words appeared before his eyes. Night Talent? He could obtain this too? Chen Heng immediately thought of the explanation he had read the first time. It said that he could obtain items, talents, bloodlines, and skills. Chapter 101, Return. Chapter 102, Real World. The prize wheel could not only give skills but could also directly give him his peak status in the simulation. It could also give bloodlines, constitutions, and items from that world. As such, it seemed that Night Talent was covered within that. It was just how would it manifest in the real world, and what use would it have? Was it telling Chen Heng to cultivate the Night's breathing technique in the real world? Chen Heng had no plans to do so. He had experienced the disadvantages of the Night's breathing technique. It greatly shortened one's lifespan and damaged one's body. In this respect, the Night's breathing technique could not compare to the body forging techniques in the real world. At the very least, from what Chen Heng knew, the body forging techniques not only strengthened one's body but could also lengthen one's lifespan. The Night's breathing technique was the opposite. The more one used it, the shorter one's lifespan would be. It was fine to use it in the simulation, as it was not his real body. It did not matter much if he did not live as long. However, Chen Heng did not want to die early in the real world. It was as if the simulation could tell what Chen Heng was thinking, and rows of words appeared before him. If you choose to manifest it, it will be changed based on the differences in the worlds and be made more suitable to the current world. If you choose not to manifest it, you can seal it and manifest it in a simulation. Seeing these words, Chen Heng was quite surprised. This is possible as well? It seemed that the prizes from the prize wheel did not have to be manifested in the real world, they could also be used in another simulation. However, apart from some skills and items, when most other things were manifested in other worlds, they had to be changed to suit the rules of the world. So it's like that Chen Heng understood the rules now. Looks like this is actually quite good, Chen Heng thought to himself. Based on the simulation description, purchasing Night Talent required at least 100 points. This Night Talent that Chen Heng had drawn could be saved and used the next time he went into the sorcerer world. This meant that he had used 20 points to draw something that he would have had to spend at least 100 points for. In other words, he did not make a loss and instead profited. After thinking this, Chen Heng looked up at the prize wheel again. Just like last time, the second spin required 40 points. However, for Chen Heng and his 3,000 or so points, that was not a big deal, so he chose to spin again. 40 points were deducted and the large prize wheel began to spin again before slowly stopping. You have obtained Night Kalin's Night Basic Body Forging Technique. Body Forging Technique? And only basic? Chen Heng frowned. The words basic at the front meant that he could only obtain his attainments and cultivation in the basic body forging technique. However, that was useless to Chen Heng, as he was already at basic body forging completion. After this simulation, he had gained a deeper understanding of the basic body forging, but it was not worth manifesting again. However, according to the rules, he could save this for now and use it when he entered his next simulation. Thinking to the, Chen Heng also saved this reward. On the prize wheel, a card appeared next to another card. After the second spin, the required points increased to 80 points. Chen Heng did not hesitate to spin again. The prize wheel once again spun before stopping. You have obtained Knight Kalin's personal sword. Before Chen Heng could react, he felt a heaviness in his hand as a sword appeared in his hand. The sword was a silver-white color and had a black sheath. It looked quite luxurious, and just from a glance, one could tell that it was not ordinary. This was Silver Splendor, a sword that Chen Heng had mastered blacksmith's forge when he had become king. The sword used a large amount of precious materials and took a few master blacksmiths to craft together, and it was worth more than entire cities. It could be said that if he was willing to sell this sword, it would sell for an astronomical price. However, spending 80 points for this sword, Chen Heng shook his head and silently put the sword down and stored it away. Spending 80 points for a sword was a bit of a loss, but there was nothing he could do about it. That was how gachas worked. Sometimes you won, and sometimes you lost. Drawing this sword was not too bad. At least he could sell it for money. He did not know if it would be as precious as it was in the simulation. Stroking this sword, he suddenly thought to himself, was the world he had gone to a real world? Back then, he had thought that the simulation was just a simulation and was not a real world. However, now, something corporeal from the simulation had appeared in his hand. This made him re-evaluate his thoughts. As Chen Heng thought to himself, words appeared before his eyes. Apart from some special worlds, the simulation worlds are just like the real world. Chen Heng stared and thought of the things he had gone through, as well as those familiar faces, and he could not help but silently close his eyes. So it was all real, he thought to himself, feeling quite complicated. He thought back to Werner, Trudeau, and the various other people, and he could not help but feel quite complicated. Before, he had thought that those people did not actually exist and were just part of the simulation. However, it seemed that those people were all real existences, and their world was just as real as Chen Heng's own world. Perhaps after Chen Heng's body in the simulation died, many of the people Chen Heng knew were still living in that world. There were also his children and old friends. Chapter 103, New World. Standing there by himself, Chen Heng thought for a long time before smiling. At the end of the day, he had done his absolute best in the simulation. Even if he did manipulate some people, he had done his best for most of them. He was sure that because of what he had done, they would be able to continue living well. This was enough. Thinking there, Chen Heng smiled and looked ahead. Following this, the prize wheel disappeared with a thought from Chen Heng. After spinning the prize wheel 3 times, the cost had increased to 160 points. Chen Heng could not afford such a price, and it would not be worth it anymore. Chen Heng did not have too many valuable things in the previous world, and very few of them were worth 160 points. Chen Heng was not a gambler and would not bet his points for a small chance of receiving something useful. As such, he rationally decided to stop. After 3 spins, he still had a bit more than 3,000 points. This was much more than Chen Heng had ever had. If he used it well, he would be able to pick a good identity and have a better start. As the prize wheel gradually disappeared, another row of words appeared. You have more than 1,000 points. A new version will be unlocked. A new version? Chen Heng was quite surprised. Would you like to spend 1,000 points to randomly unlock a new world? New world? Chen Heng stared for a moment before nodding. A new world would be quite good. A new world had different powers and knowledge, and the things that he encountered would also be different. Given that he had many points, Chen Heng decided to open a new world. Different from the prize wheel, once a new world was unlocked, he could continuously use it in future. It was not a one-time ticket. In terms of obtaining more points and opportunities, more worlds meant more choices. After Chen Heng made this decision, 1,000 points were deducted. The familiar wheel once again appeared, and it shined with a strange violet light. The violet light flashed, and as the wheel spun, new words appeared before Chen Heng's eyes. A new world has been unlocked. Chen Heng looked down and the familiar simulation interface once again appeared. Compared to before, there were some differences with this interface. Next to the sorcerer world, there was a new name. Azure Heaven Realm. Looking at this new world's name, Chen Heng's expression did not change. but he felt quite surprised. Azure Heaven Realm's name sounded quite different from the sorcerer world. It seemed to be a completely different style. Chen Heng wondered what kind of world this would be. Chen Heng wondered to himself, but he did not immediately try it out. He had spent decades in the previous simulation, which was a very, very long time to Chen Heng. It was long to the point that his mind felt a bit confused and he found it difficult to differentiate which one was the true him. This feeling was not very good. If this went on long term, Chen Heng would become quite unfamiliar with the real world. In actuality, he had already felt this after the first simulation. It was just that he had not spent too long in that simulation, nor had he gone through as much, so he was not affected too much. After coming back from this simulation, Chen Heng felt the effects. The familiar faces from before became quite unfamiliar. His parents, friends, big sister, various faces continuously appeared in his mind, but he could only recall them if he thought very hard. This was not a good sign. Chen Heng had entered the simulations to become stronger, but he did not want to do so at the cost of forgetting his true self and life. After all, the real world was his foundation. That was where his family and friends were, so he would not allow anything to go wrong here. I'll rest for a while and allow my mind to recover before I go into the next simulation, Chen Heng thought to himself while sitting on his bed. Lil Heng, come down to eat, a familiar voice sounded out. Outside, Wang Li was hurrying about in the kitchen as she called Chen Heng. After a few moments, Chen Heng walked out from his room and sat at the table. At the table, he silently ate. Wang Li sat beside him, and watching her son eat, she gave a blissful smile. Where's Big Sis? Chen Heng got up and asked after eating lunch. She went out to play, Wang Li replied. Different from the simulation, the real world was quite peaceful and relaxed. There was not as much killing and chaos. Of course, after experiencing what had happened before, Chen Heng knew that under the peaceful and orderly surface of this world, there was much danger hidden. It was just that those things were suppressed by others so that they did not affect ordinary people's lives. This was quite good. Strolling in a park, Chen Heng looked at the children happily playing by the side and thought to himself. After eating lunch, he had come out to get used to the world again. He wanted to become reaccustomed to this world as soon as possible. Soon, the sky darkened and the last rays of sunlight shined out. Chen Heng silently got up and walked back towards his house. In the distance, looking at Chen Heng leave, a tall middle-aged man slowly walked over and followed Chen Heng. As he walked, Liu Xin thought to himself. Liu had given him the order to teach this boy a lesson, to show him that the Liu family's people were not to be messed with. As for how to teach him a lesson, that was a problem. If it was anyone else who dared to trick someone from the Liu family and take a core technique, even breaking that person's hands and feet would be considered mercy. However, this boy was different. It seemed that he was good friends with the Liu family's young master's little sister. Even though he and Liu felt that this friendship was not very pure, this little miss felt that it was fine. If he went too far, the little miss would know, and the young master and little miss would fight again. Should he go easy on him then? Liu Xin thought to himself. However, soon, he noticed that something was off. Chapter 104, Problems. As he walked, Liu Xin instinctively felt that something was off. He looked up and ahead. Ahead was a wide alley with no one else around. At the entrance of the alley, a young man stood there. He had handsome looks and a tall and straight figure. He had an air of steadiness that did not match his age, as well as a sense of calmness and dignity that made him difficult to forget. He stood there with his arms crossed. His expression was calm as he stared at Liu Xin. What's going on? Sensing the young man's gaze, Liu Xin's expression greatly changed. As a fighter specially trained by the Liu family, he had systematically trained in tracking someone before, and he had even cultivated a secret technique for it. Even though he was not a professional, surely he would not be detected by a mere high schooler. Uncle, you've tailed me for a while. Just what do you want? Looking at Liu Xin, Chen Heng's expression was calm as he smiled to try to lower the other person's wariness. I'm not a girl, so there's no point flirting with me, right? He was smiling on the inside while a hostile feeling welled up with him. From his instincts gained over decades in the simulation, he had almost instinctively drawn his sword to capture this fellow. Fortunately, he had quickly controlled himself. This was not the dangerous sorcerer world but the orderly real world. In this world, just like in Chen Heng's previous life, he could not kill as he pleased. It was better to resolve matters without fighting or killing. Boy, your luck isn't good. Liu Xin came back to his senses and gave a savage look. Someone paid me money to teach you a lesson. Even though he did not understand how this boy had discovered him, since things had come to this, he might as well pretend to be a hooligan who wanted a fight. In the end, as long as he beat up this fellow, he would complete his mission. Thinking to the He directly rushed up and punched out. In order to prevent this punch from crippling Chen Heng, he had purposefully held back so he did not go too far. Otherwise, it would be difficult to answer to the little miss. Looking at this punch, Chen Heng only raised his eyebrows. The punch quickly descended, but it did not come into contact with him as Liu Xin wished. A slender palm stretched out and tightly grabbed Liu Xin's fist. I was stopped. Looking at the hand that was grabbed by Chen Heng, Liu Xin felt quite shocked, but his savage expression did not change, and he instead used more power. Nothing happened. 70%. Chen Heng still did not budge. You forced me to this. A bad feeling welled up in Liu Xin's heart as the veins on his arm bulged as his power exploded out. However, nothing changed. In front of him, Chen Heng continued to tightly grip his fist, no matter how much strength he used. Standing there, Chen Heng did not move at all, and the friendly smile remained on his face as he blocked Liu Xin's fist with a single hand. Liu Xin did not move. It was not that he did not want to move but that he could not. His hand that was grabbed by Chen Heng felt as if it was weighed down by a massive mountain. He could not move it at all, no matter how much he struggled. He tried to use his other hand to punch Chen Heng to force him away. However, no matter what he did, it was as if Chen Heng could see the future and easily dodged all of his attacks. This kind of performance caused his scalp to feel numb and for cold sweat to drip down his back. This in front of him, Chen Heng was still smiling, looking quite friendly. It was just that being stared at by him, Liu Xin did not dare to move. Now, he realized that he had kicked a steel board. This young man in front of him was no unremarkable high schooler. He was a wolf in sheep's clothing. It seemed that there was a reason why the little miss was friends with this person. It was not as the young master had thought, that she was being tricked by this person. What made him feel confused was that despite having such strength at such a young age, what was this person doing in a small place like this? For a young man to have such strength at such a young age, he would definitely be called a genius and a precious seedling, and he would be sent to special places to cultivate. All kinds of thoughts flashed in Liu Xin's mind as he had a bad premonition. However, different from what he thought, Chen Heng did not attack him. Someone told you to teach me a lesson? Chen Heng smiled as he asked, can you tell me who it is? I haven't offended anyone before, so surely there's no reason why anyone would want to treat me like this. In response to this question, Liu Xin refused to answer and prepared himself for a beating. Chen Heng shook his head and said, forget it, if you don't want to tell me, that's fine. However, don't do this sort of thing in the future. There isn't much future in helping others beat up people, and it's easy for you to get in trouble, like right now. Alright, you can go. He waved his hand and turned and left. Looking at Chen Heng's departing figure, Liu Xin was completely dumbfounded. You're just leaving like this? What else am I meant to do? Chen Heng shrugged. Beating up others is wrong, but I don't want to take revenge on you either, so what can I do? Liu Xin fell silent. After becoming used to battles on another level, he had forgotten that this young man was just a high schooler. However, despite being just a high schooler, that magnanimity and charisma, as well as strength, were not things that an ordinary high schooler should have. Compared to others, he seemed to have a pure aura. Thinking about what Chen Heng had said, Liu Xin felt a bit touched and complicated. After a while, he looked at Chen Heng's disappearing figure before shaking his head and leaving. After Liu Xin left, Chen Heng once again walked out of the alley. Looking at Liu Xin's departing figure, he shook his head. How troublesome a difference in environment made Chen Heng greatly regulate how he acted. If this was the simulation world, based on what the other person had done, Chen Heng at least would have captured him to interrogate him or chopped him up and fed him to the wolves. However, he could not do this in the real world. Killing people was against the law, and he would at least have to give the other side compensation. As for beating up that side to vent his anger, he was not so bored as to do that. Moreover, if he guessed correctly, that person was most likely connected to Liu Yi. Even though this world had many martial artists, Chen Heng had never encountered something like this before. It had only happened recently. He had come into contact with Liu Yi and received a solid rock body forging technique, and now this had happened. Chen Heng could not help but link these two things together. This person was most likely someone related to Liu Yi, and they had some reason to attack him. However, based on the strength that person had used, he did not seem to have any killing intent, or else Chen Heng would not have taken things so lightly. As for if he was sent by someone else, that likelihood was quite low. That middle-aged man was quite strong, and even though he could not compare to Chen Heng, he would still be considered powerful within a small place like Lin City. He definitely was not some thug. Looks like there are going to be more and more problems. Chen Heng shook his head before leaving. Chapter 105. Solution. There were indeed more and more problems. On the way home, Chen Heng continuously thought about a problem, which was how to appropriately and reasonably show his strength. Before, he had planned to do it slowly, revealing it bit by bit, so that it would seem more reasonable. However, now that he thought about it, even if he did it slowly, other people would still feel suspicious. After all, there were now only a few months until the university entrance exams. When that time came, no matter what, he would have to reveal his full strength. Going from an unremarkable and ordinary high schooler to a genius at body forging completion in just a few months would be far too incredulous. Those who investigated would be able to guess that Chen Heng had long since reached this place but had not revealed it. This would cause even more problems. He was a genius at body forging completion, so why did he pretend to be an ordinary person and stay in an ordinary high school? When that time came, Chen Heng would have to find excuses. Moreover, now that things had come to this, Chen Heng felt that he could not hide it anymore. He wanted to hide his strength from others, but now, not only did Liu Yi know, even that middle-aged man knew as well. Through these two people, more and more people would find out. What would be the point in hiding it at that point? Chen Heng could not help but sigh. Looks like I need to find a good explanation, Chen Heng thought to himself before returning home. The next day, Chen Heng went to school just as usual. Coming to his classroom, he found that it was completely crowded, and there were even many people from the neighboring classes standing outside and peering in. Chen Heng's friend Liango was also among the crowd. What's going on? Chen Heng felt quite curious as he asked Liango. Fang Jingxuan is here. Looking at Chen Heng, Liango raised his eyebrows and asked, "You're not going to come over and have a look?" Fang Jingxuan? Chen Heng frowned before remembering who this was. What is she here for? She seems to be here to teach. A look of admiration appeared on Liango's face. I'm sure you don't know, but in that previous examination, Fang Jingxuan placed first, and she is at body forging 80%. Body forging 80%. She's so close to body forging completion. That's why she's here to give a lesson, he said gloomily. The school often had excellent students give lessons to others. It seemed that Fang Jingxuan had been the one to be chosen this time. They were the same age, and yet she would be on the lectern talking, while they could only listen. There was a massive gap between them. No wonder Liango's expression was so complicated. But even if it's like that, why are there so many people here? Chen Heng looked around as he asked. These are all her admirers. Liango chuckled. It's her fault for being so pretty. All right, at an age like this, as long as one looked pretty, it was not too surprising to see many people crowding around them. Standing outside the classroom and looking through the window, Chen Heng saw a young girl standing at the lectern. She was quite beautiful and had exquisite looks, and she looked like a porcelain doll and gave off a shocking charm. She was only around 16 or 17 years old, but her figure was quite developed. She looked incredibly stunning, and looking at her, one could not help but feel delighted. Looking at the young girl, Chen Heng thought to himself. Chen Heng had heard of this Fang Jingxian in his previous life before. It was said that her background was quite good. Her family was in real estate, and they had much money. She was quite outstanding herself and was the top student at the Lin City #1 high school. Back then, it seemed that many things had happened, but because they were unrelated to Chen Heng, he did not know much about most of them. However, there was one incident that he knew about. In his previous life, there seemed to be a group of robbers who had kidnapped this girl and had demanded a ransom, shaking Lin City. It was at that time that Chen Heng heard about this girl. Chen Heng thought to himself and smiled. So she has many admirers in the school? Chen Heng asked Liango. Of course. Speaking to the Liango became quite impassioned, let alone anywhere else, just in our class. Many of our classmates are fans. His face was red as he spoke energetically. Chen Heng nodded in thought as he asked, "Do you like her?" But of course, Liango nodded, "I'd be willing to do anything for her to become my girlfriend." What a coincidence. Chen Heng nodded with a serious expression, "I also like her." Hearing this, Liango froze. He stared at Chen Heng before putting his hand on Chen Heng's forehead. "You don't have a fever, bro. Let's not think about it. I was just joking around," Liango said. With her background, she would never consider people like us. On the other hand, I think that our new classmate Liu Yi is quite good. She seems to be quite interested in you too. However, Chen Heng only nodded as he smiled and said, "How do you know you won't succeed if you don't try? For some things, if you miss out on the opportunity, you won't have another chance. As such, no matter what the outcome is, you should still try it." He patted Liango's shoulder and his smile did not change, seeming pure and natural. "If you succeed, that would be for the best. If you fail, it doesn't matter that much either. At the very least, you won't have any regrets." Liango was stunned. That makes sense. He scratched his head, and looking at Chen Heng's smile, he felt quite embarrassed. That's right, it was just a confession. Wasn't it? It wasn't that big of a deal. Just like Chen Heng had said, if he succeeded that would be great. Even if he failed, it would not matter much, and at least he would not have any regrets. "You really want to chase her?" Looking at Chen Heng, Liango could not help but nod. Chen Heng smiled and said, "In that case, do your best and give it a shot." He waved his hand and turned and left. Whatever will be, will be. Chapter 106. Happily talking. "Here's a letter for you." A letter lay on an otherwise empty table. It was not just Fang Jingxian, even the people around her were not surprised by this kind of thing anymore. "Who is it from?" Sitting beside Fang Jingxian, a delicate and pretty girl in a dress asked out of curiosity. "It seems to be a boy from class 19. His looks were quite good and he was very polite," Kong Yi thought before replying. "He asked me to give this letter to you before leaving," she said, before adding, "That boy was quite tall and seemed quite different from other people." "How was he different?" another girl asked out of curiosity. "He seemed very clean," Kong Yi thought before repeating, "That's right, clean." He had good looks and his aura gave off a sense of cleanliness. Thinking about that boy from before, it was quite difficult to forget him. After being deskmates with Fang Jingxian for so long, she had become used to things like this. Beautiful and wonderful things often attracted people, and many people had fallen for the beautiful Fang Jingxian at first glance. Of those people, many people had wanted to get closer to Fang Jingxian through Kong Yi. There were many people who had asked her to deliver letters for them. However, it was a pity that even though there were so many people chasing Fang Jingxian, none of them had succeeded. Fang Jingxian was not interested in any of those people. Even though she was polite, it was evident that she kept them at arm's length. Because of this, many people had felt depressed before. Over the years, Kong Yi had seen many boys. Most of Fang Jingxian's admirers were boys from school, and some were from other schools. Among them, most of them were quite strange, and some were quite outstanding. After spending much time sitting with Fang Jingxian, her standards had also increased. Boys who normal people considered outstanding were just so-so in her eyes. However, that boy today was not the same as the others. Even though his looks were good, they were not that incredible. However, his aura was incredibly unique. It seemed both dignified and gentle, and it gave off a sense of honesty and cleanness. This made her remember him. That's right, he's still outside, Do you want to meet him? Kong Yi thought before asking Fang Jingxuan. Hearing this, Fang Jingxuan did not react too much and only nodded. She walked out from the classroom in her white dress. The sunlight outside shined on her body, illuminating her features, making it seem as if she was glowing. Under the sunlight, her white dress fluttered, making her look like a goddess as she walked out. Outside, a boy was standing there. Compared to Fang Jingxuan, the boy was dressed quite simply. He was just wearing the simple school uniform, which, combined with his handsome looks, gave a unique sense. Under the sunlight, the young man was smiling, as if he was filled with optimism towards life. He gave off a calm and natural feeling. That unique aura and calm demeanor made Fang Jingxuan, who was used to seeing outstanding peers, stop and stare. "Hello," she politely said. "Hello, my name is Chen Heng." The young man introduced himself as he gave an apologetic smile. "I'm sorry for disturbing you. I originally did not want to disturb you, but it seems that I have. I apologize for that." Fang Jingxuan stared for a moment before smiling and saying, "It's fine." She looked quite friendly and did not seem as unapproachable as other people thought. Chen Heng chatted with her for a while, and the discussion was quite pleasant. "There are some things that can be sent by proxy, but there is something that I wanted to personally give you." Chen Heng smiled as he took out a letter from his bag and earnestly held it out. Looking at him like this, Fang Jingxuan opened her mouth, wanting to say something but stopped herself. "Don't worry," Chen Heng smiled as he said, "I know what you're thinking. Classmate Fang, you're destined not to stay here for long and will leave for better places. As such, before that, you don't want to get too involved with other people. I believe that it's not because you look down on others or that you're not willing, but rather, you don't want to get close to people and then be separated soon. This would hurt others and also waste your own time." "Is that it?" Fang Jingxuan stared at Chen Heng, feeling quite surprised. What Chen Heng had said was indeed what she thought. It was just that in the past, she had never said this to anyone before. Everyone else thought that it was just because her background was good and that she had good talent. That she did not think that most boys were good enough. Only those who were truly close to her would know that this was not the case. It was because she did not want to hurt others that she refused everyone. Since she would not be here for long, what need was there to start anything? This was what she thought, and very few people knew. Chen Heng was not familiar with her, and yet he could guess what she was thinking. Looking at the surprised Fang Jingxuan, Chen Heng only smiled. In his previous life, even though he had not interacted with Fang Jingxuan in high school, afterwards, he had some interaction with her, so he knew a bit about her. This was a good opportunity to use this information. "Your thinking is very good and kind. I didn't come for anything else." Chen Heng's expression was sincere as he spoke slowly. "In actuality, if it wasn't for the fact that we were going to go our own separate ways, I wouldn't have done this. It's just that some things should be done, or else there will be no conclusion. As such, I'm here before you." Speaking to the, he smiled. "I'm very happy to have been able to meet you. I feel the same." Looking at Chen Heng's sincere expression, Fang Jingxuan felt a bit touched and smiled. "Before you came today, I had never thought that there would be someone in the school who understood me so much. I am also quite happy to meet you." The two of them looked at each other and smiled, and they felt a sense of closeness. Following this, they strolled to the exercise field and calmly chatted. On the way, they talked about a lot, from cultivation to life, to the economy, as well as many other things. During this whole time, Fang Jingxuan felt quite shocked. Chapter 107, Headcanon. This Fang Jingxuan was somewhat shocked. Because of her background and talent, she had encountered many outstanding people of the same age. Among those people, some had great talent, some had resolute personalities, some had vast knowledge. But there were very few who could keep up with her thinking. No matter what they talked about, Chen Heng could easily follow, whether it was in terms of martial arts, history, or economy. He had his own unique views. Fang Jingxuan had never met a similarly aged person like this before. In fact, some of his perspectives were quite compatible with hers, making her feel that he knew her well. During this short interaction, she could not help but feel quite favorable towards Chen Heng and also began to feel somewhat curious about him. Just what was this young man's past like? Why had she never heard of him before? It's about time for class to start. Chen Heng did not know what Fang Jingxuan was thinking and only smiled as he said, I should be heading back. All right. Fang Jingxuan nodded and smiled as she looked at Chen Heng. I hope that we can still be friends in the future. We will. Chen Heng nodded and smiled. Following this, he waved his hand, turned, and left. Under the sunlight, the young man's figure gradually disappeared. Fang Jingxuan stood there by herself, silently watching the young man leave, a smile on her face. Getting this far was pretty good, Chen Heng thought to himself as he walked. Him suddenly making contact with Fang Jingxuan naturally was not because he was bored, nor because he actually liked her. Liking someone was far behind Chen Heng. He had long since gotten past that stage. The reason he had done this was to get things done. When Chen Heng walked into the classroom, he found that many people were looking at him with strange gazes. It seemed that what Chen Heng had said had caused an effect. What he had said with Liang Go was in a public setting, and many people had heard. This kind of gossip spread quickly, and by now, the whole class probably knew. Chen Heng's expression did not change as he silently walked to his seat. Many people looked over out of curiosity, and some wanted to ask him about what had happened. However, at that moment, the bell rang and the students fell silent as class began. Sitting at his desk, Chen Heng looked to the side and saw that the seat nearby was empty. If he remembered correctly, that was Liu Yi's seat. She had not come to class today. Was it because of what happened yesterday? Chen Heng thought to himself before thinking to himself, even though this world had changed much, some things would most likely still happen, just like how there were not many changes in the classmates and friends around him. If that was the case, the kidnapping from his previous life would most likely happen again. It should be happening soon, and this would be a good opportunity. Chen Heng's gaze was calm as he thought to himself. Elsewhere, Liu Zhu and Liu Xin were talking. Really? Looking at Liu Xin, Liu Zhu had a confused expression. That boy was able to easily injure you. He didn't injure me. Liu Xin lowered his head, feeling quite ashamed. He did not attack me at all, but he was able to easily suppress me. Liu Zhu stared at him. Defeating someone and suppressing someone were completely different. You could only defeat someone if you were a bit stronger, but suppressing someone required a massive disparity in strength. That person was strong to such a degree, even though I don't know why, but that boy definitely is not an ordinary person and is most likely close to body forging completion. Liu Xin sighed again. It's just a bit strange. Liu Zhu understood what he was saying. Ordinarily speaking, for someone at this age to reach body forging completion, they would undoubtedly be a true genius. If news about this spread, a massive group of people would come and beg him to join their schools and become a core disciple. Despite having such strength, this person did not show it and remained at a small place like this. It was quite strange. However, Liu Zhu did not think too much about this for now. After all, everything had a reason. What he cared about right now was his little sister, Liu Yi. Looks like I was mistaken. Thinking to the, Liu Zhu's expression softened. He had been angry because he thought that his little sister was being tricked by someone, which was why she would take the Solid Rock School's core technique and give it away. Now, he knew that that person was not an ordinary person but a true genius. For a genius like this, giving him a body forging technique was not a big deal. If anyone else knew about him, there would be many people who would be willing to take out their school's secret body forging techniques to try to rope him in. For those without much resources, body forging techniques were very precious, but when people reached a certain point, this kind of thing was not a big deal anymore. The times were not like in the past, when every school would jealously guard their body forging techniques. During this age of information, to those with the right resources, the various schools' body forging techniques were no longer secrets. Comparatively speaking, true geniuses were the core of schools, and they were much rarer. Thinking to the, Liu Xin's anger subsided, and he instead felt quite favorably towards what Liu Yi had done. For her to discover a hidden genius in time and establish a good relationship with him without alerting anyone else, as well as invest in him with a body forging technique, this was very well done on her part. As expected of someone from the Liu family. Did you say you were from the Liu family? Liu Ji looked up and asked Liu Xin. No, I didn't. Liu Xin shook his head and replied, I didn't say where I came from, only that I was paid to beat him up. That's good then. Liu Ji nodded and said, leave this matter to me from now on. He decided that he would find his little sister and talk seriously about this. It would be too much of a pity for such an outstanding sprout to be buried here. If they did not discover him, then there would be nothing they could do. However, now that they had discovered him, they naturally could not just let him off. After all, in this time and age, talented people were what mattered the most. Following this, he turned and left with Liu Xin, and he went to find Liu Yi. Time gradually passed. Soon, it had been half a month. During the past half a month, the noise from what Chen Heng had done last time gradually died down. It was not just in Chen Heng's class, but even those in Fang Jingxuan's class knew that she had another admirer. When Chen Heng walked about, there would be many people looking at him with strange glances. As expected, no matter the time or world, this kind of gossip spread quickly. However, Chen Heng did not mind and went about his business as usual. It's about time. Sitting in front of his desk, Chen Heng thought to himself as he wrote in his book. Based on his memories from his previous life, today was the day that incident was going to happen. For today, Chen Heng had made preparations. Today was a Sunday, and because of this matter, he did not stay at home and instead came to school to revise his classwork. It was just that despite waiting an entire morning, he did not hear anything out of the ordinary. Did things change? At noon, Chen Heng raised his head and felt quite surprised. He remembered that incident had happened in the morning. However, nothing had happened. It seemed that things had changed in this world. Chen Heng was somewhat surprised, but he did not mind too much. He had just missed out on a chance to show his strength, but it was not a big deal. Since he had set up the foundation, he could just find another opportunity. Thinking to the, he silently got up and walked out. What he did not notice was that there were two people observing him not too far away. It's that boy. Standing on a rooftop, Liu Ji looked at the departing Chen Heng as he nodded. You did well, Liu Yi. Chapter 108, Attack. To be able to find a precious gem in a crappy place like this is excellent work. Looking at Chen Heng's departing figure, Liu Ji had a look of appreciation on his face. Liu Yi stood by his side, a look of annoyance on her face. I really wasn't thinking like that. She looked at Liu Ji in frustration as she said, Big brother, only you think about investments and roping in people. Then what were you thinking? Liu Ji turned to look at his little sister as he frowned. I just felt. Liu Yi hesitated. Don't tell me you gave it to him because you thought he was pitiful, Liu Ji said expressionlessly. Liu Yi did not reply, but she looked a bit hesitant. It was evident that that was what she was thinking. Looks like I overestimated you. Liu Ji sighed. Pitiful, pitiful, you think he's pitiful? No, the pitiful one is you. A cold smile appeared on his face. He's in a place like this because he was born here and never saw a brighter future. But you are born from the Liu family and can reach greater heights, and because you're weak and powerless, you were willing to come to a small place like this to run away from reality. What is the point in that? Liu Yi remained silent and did not say anything. Put away your boring sympathy and weakness. Liu Ji's expression became colder as he said, at the end of the day, regardless of why you did it, you did well. Now, continue to get along with him. You can use the family's resources to get some things for him to rope him in more. Of course, most importantly, find a way to bring him under your command. Your actions in the past have already disappointed grandfather. If you can rope this person in, perhaps you can redeem yourself. After all, even if you do not make progress, if you can bring in a genius, that will still be merit. Do you understand? Yes. Liu Yi nodded after remaining silent for a while. That's good. Hearing Liu Yi's reply, Liu Ji's expression softened as he said, don't feel guilty about this. After all, this is a give-and-take relationship. If he works for you, you will be able to give him benefits. It will be good for both you and for him. You'd better act quickly before others find out about him, or else he might be taken by others. He stopped speaking and let his little sister think about it herself. After a few moments, he and Liu Yi simultaneously raised their heads and looked to the side. In the next moment, they said simultaneously, demonic chi. Sensing that unique feeling, Their expressions greatly changed as they quickly left. Elsewhere, Fang Jingxuan was walking on the street. There was good weather today, as well as a weekend. She had come out with a few friends to stroll about. After all, every person had social needs, and this was quite a normal day. It's noon already, we should head back, Kong Yi said looking at Fang Jingxuan. All right, Fang Jingxuan smiled and nodded. They turned and prepared to leave. At that moment, Fang Jingxuan sensed that something was off. A wave of pressure spread over them. In the distance, a big man wearing black clothes was slowly heading over. He was incredibly tall and seemed to be at least 2 meters tall. He was wearing a black military coat, and even though it was a warm day, he was still wearing so much. What was quite disconcerting was that his pupils were violet-colored, looking quite devilish. He walked over from the distance, staring fixedly at Fang Jingxuan with a terrifying gaze. "Fang's daughter," he said with his eyes wide open as he slowly approached. Fang Jingxuan instinctively retreated. For some reason, she felt that this person gave off a terrifying pressure that made it difficult for her to summon any strength. "Do you know me?" She opened her mouth and asked. However, the big man ignored her question and continued to walk forwards before punching out. His massive fist contained a strange strength. He was incredibly fast, and facing this fist, Fang Jingxuan's mind blanked out as she was directly sent flying backwards. Blood spurted everywhere, covering the ground. Fang Jingxuan collapsed onto the ground, and her abdomen caved in, with blood flowing out. She opened her eyes, a look of disbelief within them. She was not some weak girl, with body forging 80% strength. She was stronger than some teachers at school. However, facing this man, she could not even block a single punch and was sent flying. What kind of strength was this? Body forging completion? Her eyes widened. She had seen martial artists with body forging completion, but those people were not as strong as this person, and their auras could not compare to his either. He's already attacked. Liu Ju and Liu Xin arrived, and seeing this, they let out sighs of relief. Fortunately, no one has died, nor is it a true demon. The two of them could be considered professionals when it came to demons. They could tell at a glance if there was a demon. There was not a demon possessing this middle-aged man's body, he was only tainted by demonic chi, causing his personality to change. Under the influence of demonic chi, one's negative emotions would be amplified. Ordinary people could not bear it at all and would often do various things as a result. Looking at the girl on the ground, Liu Yi was about to act, but she was stopped by Liu Ju. Wait. He looked into the distance and saw a young man hurrying over. Let that boy act first. It will let us see what his strength is like. So something happened in the end? Chen Heng thought to himself. He had thought that nothing would happen, but he was proven wrong. It was just that the incident was a bit different to his previous life. If Chen Heng remembered correctly, it was a group of people who were just ordinary robbers. However, the person in this incident was a martial artist. He's a bit stronger than expected, but I should still be able to deal with him. On the way, Chen Heng was estimating his target's strength. Different from the simulation world, his current strength was only at body forging completion. Even though it was quite good in the Lin City, it was not that strong, so he still had to be careful. If this person's strength surpassed anything he could take, he would immediately leave without any hesitation. However, fortunately, it seemed that even though this person was powerful, it was not beyond his capabilities. He did not need to defeat him either, he just needed to stall for time. After all, this was in the city, and as long as Chen Heng could buy some time, the government's people would soon arrive. Thinking to the, Chen Heng resolved himself and quickly approached. As he thought to himself, his aura greatly changed, making him seem like an unsheathed blade that gave off a cold glow. Ahead, the man seemed to sense something and slowly turned. Chapter 109, XJ. Enemy seeming to sense a threat. The middle-aged man turned and looked at Chen Heng. Even though he was not a demon, after the demonic chi entered his body, the man's senses became incredibly sensitive. This was especially towards those who held hostile intent towards him. He would immediately sense it. Ordinary people would be fine, but Chen Heng was different. His existence was like a sharp sword that could not be ignored. As the middle-aged man turned, Kong Yi quickly rushed over and helped Fang Jingxuan up. Its classmate Chen. Fang Jingxuan held her abdomen as she raised her head with great difficulty as she looked at Chen Heng. It was him who had attracted the attention of that unknown man, but Fang Jingxuan felt quite worried. After receiving that blow, she knew how strong that man was. He was not someone an ordinary person could go up again. If that punch had not landed on her, but on someone else, that person might have died. Hurry up and run, she held her abdomen as she shouted out, wanting Chen Heng to quickly leave. However, it was too late. Ahead, the middle-aged man gave a low roar and rushed forwards. Looking at this punch, Chen Heng's expression was calm. He has great strength, he thought to himself before swinging his arms, blocking the man's punch with his two hands. Boom! It was as if two cars had crashed together, and a massive sound rang out. Following this, Chen Heng's body flipped backwards in the air before landing again. The punch had not been able to hit him. Following this, a palm ferociously descended. Bang! In that instant, massive energy blasted out as Chen Heng's palm shot at the man, so fast that ordinary people would not be able to see it. The man continuously retreated before giving a low shout. Standing on the street, he seemed like a war god as well as a mad dog, giving off a berserk aura that could cause others' hearts to tremble. Looking at Chen Heng, his eyes flashed as he continuously punched out, each punch aimed at vitals. His momentum was suffocating, making it difficult to get close. It could be said that if anyone dared to get close and were even slightly scraped, they would be heavily injured if not killed. A pole on the side of the street cracked and swayed after being hit by him. Wild wind spread out as the two figures continuously clashed. Both of them were incredibly fast, like a tiger and leopard, and the sound of blows being exchanged could be heard. So powerful. Looking at this scene, many people's hairs stood on end as their eyes widened. However, those who passed by quickly left, afraid of being caught up in the battle. It was not because they were cowardly but because this scene was too terrifying. The two people were clearly empty-handed, but the strength from each of their punches and kicks seemed suffocatingly powerful. Those with sharp eyesight would be able to see the drops of blood all around them. Fang Jingxuan's eyes widened, seeming to forget her pain, with her face filled with shock and confusion. Wasn't he just an ordinary student? Why was he so powerful? Just how strong is he? Kong Yi was also stupefied. She naturally recognized Chen Heng but had never thought that such a gentle and peaceful-looking young man would be so powerful. Fang Jingxuan was considered the strongest in the school, and even some teachers could not compare to her. However, she had been instantly defeated by this man. On the other hand, Chen Heng could face the man directly and was not even at a disadvantage. This is at least the strength of body forging completion, a person said bitterly beside her. Kong Yi turned and saw that the speaker was a muscular middle-aged man who looked quite familiar. It was their martial arts teacher, Liu Lin. To the students, Teacher Lin was incredibly powerful, and very few people could rival his accomplishments in body forging. However, right now, he could only watch on with a bitter smile and could not go up. It was not that he did not dare to, but that he could not. Given the intensity of this fight, if he went up, he would just be a hindrance for Chen Heng and would end up with heavy injuries. I've already made a report, the government's people will be here soon, he said. Ahead, Chen Heng was still fighting. A punch quickly descended, leaving a mark on his chest, but at the same time, he also slashed forwards with his hand, leaving a gash on that man's body. The two of them backed off from each other, blood flowing down their bodies and pooling on the ground, creating a chilling scene. However, for some reason, even though the fight was like this, there were more and more people spectating. It was as if they did not care for their lives. Of course, they were not truly risking their lives. Most stayed quite a distance away from the fighting. The abnormalities from this place drew even more people over. In the distance, a few women were watching, and they were completely stunned. Chen Heng did not know if he was seeing things, but one of those people seemed quite familiar to him. Ah Jing, isn't that your little brother? A voice suddenly sounded out. Hearing this voice, Chen Heng instinctively looked over. In the distance, there was a woman standing in the center of a group of a few other women, staring at him. It was Chen Heng's big sister Chen Jing. As he turned, a punch flew at his chest. Chen Heng felt a pain in his chest before he was sent flying as if he had been hit by a car. Blood spluttered everywhere, and just from this punch, Chen Heng was heavily injured. He heavily crashed to the ground, and it seemed that a few of his bones had been broken. The middle-aged man looked at Chen Heng on the ground and coldly laughed before disregarding him. Instead, he turned and looked at Fang Jingxuan in the distance. "It's your turn," he said coldly as he looked at her with a gaze filled with killing intent. His bloodthirsty gaze and berserk killing intent caused Kong Yi and the others to shudder. It was just that before he was able to take a few steps, he paused and quickly turned. In the air, a figure descended and gathered his strength into a single punch, heavily blasting down. Bang! With a single punch, the man's chest caved in and he was sent flying back. Chen Heng was standing there with great difficulty. After that fight, he was completely bloodied and was covered with wounds, looking quite terrifying. Despite this, his aura was incredibly powerful. He turned and looked at this big sister in the distance before rushing up and continuing to fight with the man. The two of them unleashed massive attacks, becoming more and more savage, targeting each other's vitals. The scene instantly became much more bloody. "It really is Lil Heng." Looking at Chen Heng fighting in the distance, Chen Jing looked incredibly worried. Right after arriving here, she had recognized Chen Heng but did not dare to believe it. After all, the current Chen Heng was far too different from the image of the little brother she had in her mind. Chen Heng's reaction just then had confirmed this for her, that the expert fighting with this middle-aged man was her little brother. Chapter 110, Reason. What do I do? What do I do? Looking at her little brother fighting in the distance, Chen Jing felt quite panicked. Where are the government officers? Why aren't they here yet? My little brother is fighting with a criminal. They'll be here soon. Her friends' faces were pale as they comforted her. Your little brother will be fine. Is there anyone who can help? Chen Jing looked incredibly worried as she looked around. Please, please help my little brother. She looked at a few well-built men wearing martial artists' clothes in the surroundings. A few of them seemed to be martial arts instructors from around here. It was just that they could only bitterly smile as they looked at Chen Jing. The difference in strength was simply too great. Those who could be martial arts teachers were all at least at body forging 80%, and they were 20% away from completion. However, battle power was not calculated like this. Someone at body forging completion had complete control over their bodies, and every move could unleash great power. It could be said that a person at body forging completion could easily defeat 7 or 8 people at body forging 80%. Moreover, body forging and skills were completely different too. Looking at these two people, their strength was not something that ordinary people at body forging completion could rival with. Every attack that they unleashed contained incredibly ferocious power. An ordinary body forging completion expert would not be able to last for long in front of them. If they dared to charge up, they would come out lying down, putting aside the danger to themselves. If they just charged in like this, not only would they not be able to help Chen Heng, but they would also most likely be a burden to him. Your little brother is too amazing, and we can't help at all, they said with bitter smiles. Even though we're much bigger than him, if we rushed in, we would not be able to take even 1 or 2 attacks. Your little brother really is a genius. Looking at the young man fighting in the distance, they could not help but sigh. From how it seemed, this young man was most likely at body forging completion. With his age, this was simply too shocking. I don't think there has been anyone in Lin City in recent times who has reached body forging completion before graduation, someone muttered. Hearing these people's words, Chen Jing was stunned. Fortunately, at that moment, various noises could be heard from the distance. Black patrol cars with wailing sirens were quickly converging here. The government's people had arrived. A look of delight appeared on Chen Jing's face. Looks like we can't wait until the perfect time. Hearing the sounds from afar, Liu shook his head and felt that it was a pity. From the start, he knew that this middle-aged man would be difficult to deal with. As such, he wanted to use this person to see Chen Heng's strength and rescue Chen Heng when he fell into dire straits. After saving someone from a life-threatening crisis, it would be much easier to recruit them. However, he had never thought that Chen Heng would be so powerful. Even though he had fought with the middle-aged man for such a long time, he had not been disadvantaged the entire time. This was not like an ordinary high schooler who had never fought before. He seemed like an experienced martial artist whose every move contained great power and skill. In fact, Liu felt that if they went on like this, that person might not be a match for Chen Heng. However, now, it was a time to put an end to this fight. Even though he felt that it was a pity, Liu Ju decided to act. As everyone watched on, a figure quickly acted and reached the center of the battlefield in just a few breaths. The middle-aged man seemed to sense something and warily looked up, instinctively wanting to turn. At that moment, a bloodied hand stretched out and grabbed his neck and ferociously pushed down. Bang! At that moment, he was slammed by Chen Heng into the ground. He still struggled, but Chen Heng had a firm grip on his neck, as well as pinned his arms and legs to the ground. Liu Ju watched this scene in surprise and a look of appreciation appeared on his face. He did not do any flashy actions and instead smashed the middle-aged man's head with a precise hit. Immediately, the middle-aged man's body stopped moving as he collapsed. It's over. After dealing with the man, Liu Ju turned and looked at Chen Heng. He was already on the ground. After dealing with the man, he had used up all of his strength and had almost collapsed. He had one hand against the ground, raggedly breathing. Blood continuously flowed out of his body, pooling on the ground. Looking at him like this, Liu Ju felt more and more appreciation towards him. He was about to say something when a figure ran over from the crowd. "Lil Heng, are you alright?" Chen Jing quickly ran over and said with a bit of a sob as she looked at the bloodied Chen Heng. "I'm fine." Chen Heng shook his head with great difficulty. "Make way, let us through to the patient." At that moment, an ambulance arrived and many people got off and quickly brought Chen Heng onto the ambulance. As his family member, Chen Jing also got in the ambulance. "Why are you so stupid?" Chen Jing said angrily in the ambulance. "Why didn't you run from that serial murderer? Why did you stay there? That person wasn't going after you. Why did you have to fight him and try to be a hero?" Chen Jing spoke somewhat angrily and fearfully. In response, Chen Heng only shook his head. He did not say anything, nor did he know how to explain. His body looked like it was in a very bad state, but in actuality, it was not as bad as everyone else thought. They were just surface injuries. That person had not been a match for Chen Heng at all. If it wasn't for Chen Heng holding back, they would not have gone on for so long. It was just that this was the real world, and that was a real person, not a monster. Killing someone in front of so many people not only would be bad for his image but would also cause much trouble. Chen Heng did not want to become a murderer, even if he had done it in self-defense. Once he had killed someone, the way others looked at him would change. What he had done just then was quite good. Chen Heng had successfully shown his strength and won respect. After this battle, his name would definitely spread and cause many people to pay attention to him. If he could get a rich person to invest in him, he would not have to worry about the resources he would need for cultivation. Moreover, with his prior preparation, he had found a good reason for hiding his strength. He had been a genius since he was young but had hidden his cultivation because he liked a certain person since he was young and wanted to stay with her. In order to not leave this city, he had hidden his cultivation and pretended to be an ordinary person so he could stay in the same place as her. After all, once he revealed his strength, he would have to leave this city and go to other places to cultivate. Before, he had wanted to continue hiding his strength, but because the person he liked had fallen in danger, he had been forced to act and show his strength to save her. What a good explanation. Even though it was a bit cringy to Chen Heng, given his age, it would be most likely believable. After all, he was still a high schooler. Weren't high schoolers pure and passionate? This all made sense to him, and now he would have to see what other people thought. Chapter 111, Change in Treatment. This time gradually passed. Even though his injuries were not serious, under Chen Jing's insistence, Chen Heng stayed in hospital for a few days. Soon, his mother Wang Li hurried over. Just like Chen Jing, she chided Chen Heng for his stupidity. At the same time, she was very shocked about her son's performance. When did this start? Looking at Chen Heng, she and Chen Jing asked, "Since you were already so powerful, why didn't you tell us?" Chen Heng remained silent for a while before embarrassedly telling them about his reason. Just for a girl. After hearing Chen Heng's reason, Wang Li was dumbfounded. She pointed at Chen Heng, so angry that her body trembled. If it wasn't for the fact that Chen Heng was a patient in hospital and was wounded all over his body, she might have beat him up. "Do you know what you've missed out on?" Wang Li became incredibly animated. Your father and I get up early and work late just to earn some more money so we can support you to do well in life. But you, body forging completion. Do you know how much you've been holding yourself back? If he had revealed this earlier, they would not have had to worry about his future at all. Rather, there would have been people taking the initiative to offer the best resources and services. However, he had wasted all of this. To Wang Li, Chen Heng's actions were essentially taking his future as a joke, and he had wasted great opportunities. Looking at Chen Heng lying on the bed, she felt quite angry and did not know what to say. Setting himself back for someone else, this was completely incomprehensible to her. After getting over her anger, she could only sigh and say, "Don't do this kind of stupid thing in the future. Also, you're not allowed to do what you did before again. Even if you want to protect others, there should be a limit. What would your father and I do if something happened to you?" She sat there and muttered for a while before leaving temporarily. Only after Wang Li left did Chen Jing come in. "The old lady is gone?" she asked as she looked around Chen Heng's room. "She already left." Chen Heng gave a wry smile as he nodded. "The treatment that geniuses receive is indeed different," Chen Jing said as she looked around. "Taking a whole room for yourself. Ordinary people aren't treated like this." "Indeed," Chen Heng said as he smiled. It was evident just how much his status had increased after he had shown his strength. After that matter was spread, not only was he treated well in hospital, many of his friends and classmates passionately came to visit him. Moreover, despite staying here for so long, the hospital cancelled all of his hospital bills, saying that it was his reward for his heroic deed. Even teacher Liu Lin had come, saying that the school had decided to reward his outstanding actions with a prize of $100,000. Moreover, the government was also giving him a large prize. In the blink of an eye, Chen Heng had gone from being an ordinary person to somewhat of a celebrity. However, that was indeed the case. "You have no idea how famous you are right now." Chen Jing sat by the bed and peeled an apple for Chen Heng as she said, "Everyone knows about what happened that day, that there is a student who is at body forging completion but hid it for many years because of the person he likes." Speaking to her expression became a bit complicated as she looked at Chen Heng, not sure what to say. "My friends all know about it too and are always demanding to meet you. Seriously." She shook her head, not knowing what to say. Hearing Chen Jing's words, Chen Heng was not that surprised. After all, this was a modern society, and news spread quickly. With the status of martial artists in this world, as well as such a cheesy story, it would be strange if this matter did not spread quickly. From their reactions, it seemed that the whole school probably knew about this by now. After chatting for a while, the sound of the door being knocked could be heard. A girl wearing a white dress appeared at the door, and looking at Chen Heng and Chen Jing, she paused for a moment. Her looks were quite delicate and beautiful, but her face was a bit pale and seemed a bit weak. It was Fang Jingxuan. After a few days, she looked much better than before, but her face still looked a bit pale. Behind her were a middle-aged man and woman. Looking at these two middle-aged people, Chen Heng was a bit surprised and quickly recognized them. They were Fang Jingxuan's parents, and Chen Heng had occasionally met them in his previous life. Fang Jingxuan's father looked like a gentlemanly middle-aged man and he politely smiled as he nodded at Chen Heng and Chen Jing. "Hello. Apologies for disturbing you, young man, hopefully we didn't disrupt your rest," he said as he smiled, seeming quite friendly. Following this, they sat down around Chen Heng's bed and began to chat with him. Fang Jingxuan's father was called Fang Lu. From Chen Heng's impression, he seemed to be a real estate mogul and was very wealthy but very polite. He was filled with gratitude towards what Chen Heng had done. "That person is most likely an enemy of mine and did this to get back at me. Thank you for your help, or else." Jingxuan looking at Chen Heng, Fang Lu sighed. On the side, Fang Jingxuan's mother, a luxuriously dressed woman, passionately talked with Chen Jing. After talking for a while, they left. Before leaving, in order to express their gratitude, Fang Lu left behind some money as thanks. Following this, only Chen Heng and Fang Jingxuan were left in the room. They stayed silent for a while, not saying anything. "Thank you for before." Only after a long while did Fang Jingxuan speak again, thanking Chen Heng. Chen Heng smiled. "It's fine. It's what I should have done." In that situation, anyone who had the power to stop him would have chosen to do so. That's just basic morality. But in the end, only you came to help me, Fang Jingxuan said as she smiled. When did you reach that point? Now, she asked what she was curious about the most. Since when did Chen Heng have this strength? A while ago, Chen Heng smiled. I've been at this point for about 1 or 2 years. So it's like that, Fang Jingxuan sighed. 1 or 2 years ago. In other words, back in the first or second year of high school, when she was doing her best to improve her chi blood by even a bit, Chen Heng had already reached body forging completion. This difference was evident, as well as very cruel. Why was the difference between people so big? In the past, Fang Jingxuan had always thought that her talent was quite good. Even in large cities, there would not be many people of similar age who could compare to her. However, looking at Chen Heng, she took a big blow to her confidence. He had an ordinary background and did not have the resources she had. He did not have a personal tutor, and he had relied on himself to obtain his cultivation. And yet, he had reached this kind of level by himself at such an age. If this wasn't a genius, who was? Thinking to the, she could not help but sigh and did not know what to say. After a while, she looked up at Chen Heng and asked, about that, is it true? She looked Chen Heng in the eyes as she once again asked, did you really, because of me? Yes. Chen Heng straightforwardly admitted it, and he smiled as he said, but it's not a big deal, and you don't have to feel much pressure. That was my own decision and had nothing to do with you. Chapter 112, Solid Rock School. It's just that, while looking at Chen Heng, Fang Jingxuan could not help but ask. Chen Heng's gaze was calm as he thought to himself. After figuring out an answer, he said, I don't know, sometimes, when you do something, you don't know why either, it is just instinct. For me, to be able to watch you from a corner, that is a kind of happiness in itself. Chen Heng gave a bright smile as he said, I like you, but I hope that you don't feel any pressure, nor do I want you to feel troubled. That's why I chose not to say anything. Rather, as long as I could see you every day and hear your voice, that was enough. I didn't want things to be like this. Chen Heng's expression was sincere as he spoke haltingly, acting like an incredibly pure young man. Hearing Chen Heng's words, Fang Jingxuan fell silent and her gaze became complicated. No matter how mature she was only just a young girl. And hearing that someone had done something like this for her, she could not help but feel touched. Sorry for making you feel troubled, Chen Heng said apologetically as he did his best to sit up. I know that I'm not someone who you would like. I know that I'm not good enough for you. But I didn't want to be someone who you would not even remember, so I decided to tell you about my feelings. However, I don't expect an answer. Chen Heng's voice was low and gentle, making Fang Jingxuan feel more and more complicated. Alright, looking at Fang Jingxuan like this, Chen Heng smiled and said, I should rest. After talking so much, I'm a bit tired. As he spoke, his face became a bit red, as if he was embarrassed. In actuality, to Chen Heng, these words were quite grinny. However, in order to cover himself and put on a good act, he had tried incredibly hard in every respect. Hearing Chen Heng's words, Fang Jingxuan smiled and nodded before leaving. After reaching the door, she hesitated before turning and asking softly, we'll still be friends, right? Hearing this, Chen Heng stared for a moment before nodding and smiling, of course. Fang Jingxuan smiled and walked out. How was it? Fang Jingxuan's parents were waiting outside, and seeing Fang Jingxuan walk out, they could not help but ask. Fang Jingxuan's expression was complicated and she only nodded. He's quite a good boy and has liked you for such a long time. This is quite rare, Fang Jingxuan's mother said quite passionately. If you don't dislike him, perhaps you can try it out. After all, young people should try out romance a bit. Mum, didn't you say I shouldn't date early? Fang Jingxuan said. Well, I obviously don't want you to miss out either. Looking at the mother and daughter, Fang shook his head and said, all right. Feelings can't be forced, so we'll let Jingxuan decide this for herself. He smiled before turning and walking out. Time gradually passed. Only after 3 days was Chen Heng discharged, and he returned to school. He found that there were great changes, mostly in the attitudes of the people around him. As he walked, many people would come over to enthusiastically talk to him, and many people would stare at him afar, wanting to come close but not daring to. It was as if Chen Heng had become a celebrity in the school all of a sudden. However, Chen Heng did not pay much mind to this, and continued going to classes as usual. Moreover, Liu Yi had also come to find Chen Heng and asked him to officially join the Solid Rock School, and she offered great terms. Chen Heng could tell that Liu Yi did not seem to want to do this. It was most likely that cold-looking man who had told her to do this. In order to get Chen Heng to join, they had offered him incredibly good terms. In response, Chen Heng stated that he would have to properly think about it and did not give an answer for now. However, in reality, he was already leaning towards agreeing to Liu Yi and joining the Solid Rock School. The reason was quite simple. He had practiced the solid rock body forging technique in the simulation world for a long time, and he was only a single step away from reaching completion. With this experience, if Chen Heng did not cultivate the solid rock body forging technique in the real world, it would be a great waste. Since he was going to cultivate the solid rock body forging technique, joining the Solid Rock School would make things easier for him, as well as help him obtain further body forging techniques. If he joined another school but cultivated the Solid Rock School's body forging technique, there would be problems. There was also the issue of Liu Yi. Compared to others, Liu Yi's personality was gentle and meek. This kind of person was not suited to being a leader, but she was an ideal choice as someone for Chen Heng to cooperate with. At the very least, he would not have to worry about having various troubles. Moreover, the terms she had stated were very favorable for him. The reason why Chen Heng had not immediately agreed was because he wanted to understand some things more and wait for a bit. After some time, when his fame spread more, there would be even more people trying to rope Chen Heng in. Things developed exactly as Chen Heng had expected. In just a bit more than half a month, many schools had sent representatives, wanting Chen Heng to join them. In order to compete for Chen Heng, they had all given very good terms, wanting to attract his attention. Chen Heng had to think over their proposals. The terms that these schools offered were essentially the same as what the Solid Rock School had offered. In fact, some were slightly worse. After waiting for a while, Chen Heng did not hesitate anymore and chose to join the Solid Rock School. At noon, sunlight shined on the ground. There was a massive martial arts establishment ahead, looking incredibly eye-catching among the other structures. "Are we here?" Chen Heng asked, standing in front of the martial arts establishment. Liu Yi nodded as she looked at the familiar structure with a complicated gaze. "That's right. I never thought that I would ever come back." "Isn't it good to come back?" Chen Heng asked. "Not exactly." Liu Yi shook her head but did not say any more. After a while, she brought Chen Heng in. After walking in, they heard many sounds from around them. Chen Heng looked around and saw many people diligently training, sweat flying off them. Among them, there were many children, some of whom were very young. "These are our school's members. Most of them are from our family, and very few are outsiders," Liu Yi said as she looked at these people. Chen Heng nodded. Before, Liu Yi had told him much about the Solid Rock School, and Chen Heng had seemed incredibly interested and continuously asked questions. Since he was going to their territory to cultivate, if he did not gain some extra information, wouldn't he be putting himself at a disadvantage? In order to avoid this, he naturally had to do some inquiring. Just like he expected, Liu Yi was not very tight-lipped and soon told him much about the Solid Rock School. The Solid Rock School was created by Liu Yi's ancestor, and the main members were the Liu family's people. Chapter 113, Liu Rahal. As they walked, Chen Heng tried to get more information from Liu Yi. According to Liu Yi, this so-called Solid Rock School was actually under the Liu family. Even though most members were part of the family and only a minority were outsiders, all of those who could enter the Solid Rock School were geniuses and elites. The current head of the Solid Rock School was named Liu Ruhai, and he was Liu Yi's grandfather. Of course, Liu Yi did not directly state this, but Chen Heng had figured it out. On the way, Chen Heng was still thinking about the benefits and costs of him joining the Solid Rock School. Joining the Solid Rock School provided him with enough resources and connections, so he would not have to worry about cultivation techniques in the future. Moreover, the Solid Rock School's head was Liu Yi's grandfather. From this relationship, perhaps he could receive greater benefits and attention. Of course, there were also disadvantages. The most obvious one would be his status. Given that the Solid Rock School was filled with the Liu family's people, no matter what happened, it would be impossible for him to rise to the top. At the very least, as an outsider, Chen Heng could not think about the position of head. However, this did not matter much. This was not a simulation world, and Chen Heng was not planning on making too big of a ruckus. He did not care much for the position of head. For him to just get a relatively high position and get stronger, that would be enough for him. As such, this disadvantage did not matter much. As for other things, he would only know after he joined and interacted with others. After they walked in, many people looked quite shocked when they saw Liu Yi. They hurriedly bowed, and it seemed that these actions were all instinctive responses. Looking at this scene, Chen Heng thought to himself and gained more understanding of Liu Yi's position in the Solid Rock School. It seemed that Liu Yi's position must be quite high. However, this made sense. After all, Liu Yi had left this place but was able to easily give an outsider like him the solid rock body forging technique. Without sufficient standing, who would dare to do something like this? If an ordinary disciple did this, they would most likely be beaten to death. Not only had Liu Yi done this, but she had also almost asked some teachers to especially teach him. This showed her standing even more. Chen Heng continued to think to himself as he followed behind Liu Yi. Soon, they came to the inner area of the martial arts establishment. Inside here, there were more disciples training, all of them also covered in sweat. Compared to the disciples outside, these disciples seemed much more mature and all of them were young men. Their strength was also generally stronger, and they seemed to be around body forging 60% to 70%. This group of disciples was already quite good, and outside, all of them would be top students. There are around 200 of them, and adding on the ones from before, there are around 500 or so. Chen Heng thought to himself looking at these people. From the numbers of disciples, he could roughly gauge the Solid Rock School's scale. Based on what he saw, just within this martial arts establishment, there were around 600 or 700 people. Adding on the ones who had left or were training elsewhere, there would be even more. This was quite a strong force. Chen Heng inwardly nodded, and on the surface, he looked quite curious and amazed as he gazed about. All around them, people would often pass by. Seeing a new face, they all felt quite curious and gave him a few extra glances. They continued onwards and finally reached a large hall in the depths. The hall was very sparse and had all kinds of equipment, just like the training grounds outside. It was just that there were far fewer people here. Chen Heng looked around and only saw 10 or so people. The youngest was a young man around Chen Heng's age. Although there were far fewer people, the quality was far higher. Even the weakest was nearly at body forging completion. So this is the core of the school. Looking at the 10 or so people training, Chen Heng's eyes lit up and felt quite interested. After coming to another city, what he saw was also different. Martial arts schools were places where martial arts geniuses gathered together. After all, there were not many people at body forging completion in Lin City, but there were many here. This made Chen Heng feel very interested. Following this, they came to a large door and knocked. "Come in," a low and hoarse voice sounded out. It sounded like an elderly person speaking. Liu Yi walked into the room with Chen Heng. Following this, they saw an elderly man sitting in the room. The elderly man wore a loose black martial artist's uniform and looked around 50 or 60 years old. His hair was somewhat gray, making him seem quite aged, but his gaze was as sharp as a knife. It was as if he could see through anyone's heart. He looked completely ordinary, but the aura he gave off could cause anyone to feel shocked. Looking at the elderly man, Chen Heng's body instinctively tightened and felt a strong sense of danger. His body became taut as he prepared to defend against any danger. In the next moment, a sharp light flashed out. Chen Heng dodged to the side and brought Liu Yi with him. A long saber appeared where he had been, pointing towards him. "Your reactions aren't bad." The low voice once again sounded out. Liu Ruhai nodded as he looked at Chen Heng, and a faint smile appeared on his serious face. "Chen Heng was it?" he said before continuing. "I already know about your situation. From now on, You can cultivate here. Chen Heng instinctively looked at Liu Yi. Seeing her keep her head down and remain silent, he nodded. Liu Ruhai turned and looked at Liu Yi. You're finally willing to come back? You're already this big and yet you ran away from home like that. How naive. Looking at Liu Yi, his expression became slightly cold. You left without saying anything or leaving any information. Do you know how worried your big brother was? Liu Yi bit her lips, not knowing what to say. Looking at her like this, Liu Ruhai shook his head before saying, all right. Since you've come back, let's just forget what happened. Don't do it in the future. Chapter 114, Differences. After chiding Liu Yi, Liu Ruhai turned and looked at Chen Heng. His attitude towards Chen Heng was much better, and his expression softened. Yi's big brother told me about you. You seem to be a good lad. He stretched out his hand and patted Chen Heng's shoulder, seeming quite friendly. Our school has 3 stages. Now that you are at body forging completion, you can directly go to the 3rd stage and start to cultivate our school's solid rock body forging technique. However, you just came over today, so it might not be suitable. How about this? Liu Ruhai smiled as he continued, just rest today and become familiarized with your surroundings. In a few days, this old man will personally train you. How does that sound? Chen Heng did not have any objections and obediently nodded, not seeming arrogant at all. Liu Ruhai nodded in satisfaction before waving his hand, and a woman came up to take Chen Heng away. The woman was named Liu Kaimai, and she was Liu Ruhai's most junior disciple. She also had body forging completion cultivation. Following this, she brought Chen Heng around. In the next few days, Chen Heng went around with her and had a look around the solid rock school. Only after some time passed did Liu Ruhai officially pass the solid rock school's core body forging technique to Chen Heng. Even though it was also the solid rock body forging technique, compared to the one that Liu Yi had given him, this one was more complete and had many extra details. It was evident that this was the true, complete version, and what Liu Yi had given him before was just the simplified version. In this respect, Chen Heng showed incredible talent. Compared to the other disciples, his performance was extraordinary. His progress was incredibly fast, making Liu Ruhai, who was secretly observing, feel dumbfounded. However, for Chen Heng, he felt that this was only natural. After all, he had been cultivating this for decades in the simulation world. During those decades, Chen Heng had been cultivating every day and night, and he was incredibly familiar with this body forging technique. Now that he had returned to the real world, he just had to recultivate this body forging technique. It was not a big deal. Unless he had a reason to, he would not purposefully hide his skills. That was why he did not cover up his progress. After all, others thought that he was an incredibly talented genius, so this would not be surprising. However, it was evident that his performance was a bit too shocking. Liu Ruhai sighed every day and night, feeling that Chen Heng had still come late. If Chen Heng had come a few years earlier, he might have been able to condense a martial body soon and become a martial body level martial artist. The martial body realm was a higher stage than body forging completion. Within the solid rock school, there were not that many people at body forging completion, much less martial bodies. Chen Heng only smiled and did not say much else when he heard what Liu Ruhai said. Based on the solid rock body forging technique, if one wanted to condense a martial body, one would have to at least cultivate to the 1st step. After completing the 1st step and reaching the 2nd step would they create a solid rock body. In the simulation world, Chen Heng had reached this point. After coming back to his real body, he most likely would not face any obstacles before reaching the 2nd step. All obstacles and bottlenecks on the way would just be a walk in the park to him. Of course, Liu Ruhai did not know about any of this. Right now, he just thought that he had picked up a treasure. In the following period of time, everything gradually settled down. Chen Heng diligently cultivated every day, putting in abnormal amounts of effort. In the simulation world, he had been incredibly hardworking as well. He would get up before dawn every day to train. He was incredibly humble and polite to others in the school, and he got along with everyone he came across. He did not act arrogantly at all because of his cultivation or talent. As time went on, Chen Heng became more and more used to the solid rock school. Time continued to pass. One day, Chen Heng walked out of the martial arts establishment. This was the first time he had gone out after 2 or 3 months. He normally stayed within the martial arts establishment to cultivate and did not take the initiative to go out. The reason he went out this time was because someone had invited him to participate in a martial artist gathering. Most of the people participating were members of the local schools, and they were true martial artists. Those who did not have at least body forging completion cultivation did not have the qualifications to participate in this gathering. In other words, there would not be any weaklings in this gathering, everyone was someone with value. That was why Chen Heng had agreed to go to this gathering. Even though he had understood the surrounding situation through the people around him, it was still not enough. Through the martial artists of other schools, he could gain much more information. There were people walking about everywhere, making the atmosphere seem quite lively. Not too far away, there was a small alley that no one walked into. It was quite a bustling street, but there was an old-looking small alley here. Seeing this, Chen Heng felt quite curious. Right now, he was at the heart of the city, the more flourishing place. Under normal circumstances, there shouldn't be any old structures, let alone an entire small, old alley. Chen Heng could not help but wonder why it had not been demolished yet. "What are you looking at?" Liu Kaimai asked out of curiosity. "It's not much." Chen Heng shook his head before asking, "Why is there an old alley over there?" "Old alley?" Liu Kaimai looked quite confused. She looked over at the direction that Chen Heng was pointing in and became even more confused. "I don't see anything. Isn't that just an empty plot of land?" "An empty plot of land?" Chen Heng stared in surprise. Liu Kaimai nodded but mused to herself, "But what you're saying is right. Why is there an empty plot of land in such a bustling area like this? It's quite strange." She rubbed her chin, feeling quite confused. Chapter 115, Strange Alley. The empty land. Chen Heng inwardly frowned as he looked over. It was evidently an old alley to him. The structures in the alley were very old and the style was quite strange. They seemed both like ancient Chinese structures but also seemed to be of the European style. There was not a single person in the old alley, making it seem quite gloomy and desolate. Chen Heng had not thought much of it before, but now, Chen Heng found this alley very strange. Putting aside the strangeness of its location, its structures were also strange. And what Liu Kaimai had said, empty land. Chen Heng thought to himself and he smiled as he said, "That's right, it's just an empty plot of land." Speaking of which, it's quite strange for there to be an empty plot of land here. "Should we take a look?" he asked as he looked at Liu Kaimai. All right. Liu Kaimai looked at Chen Heng and did not refuse. She felt much respect towards this junior apprentice brother of hers and had a favorable impression of him. Since this was not a big deal, she naturally did not refuse this junior apprentice brother of hers. They got out of the car and slowly walked forwards. On the way, he casually asked some passers-by what they saw, but what surprised him was that no matter who he asked, their answers were the same. To them, it was just an empty plot of land, not a small alley. Just what was going on? Chen Heng inwardly frowned, quickly thinking to himself. Soon, they came before the small alley. Chen Heng watched Liu Kaimai walk forwards, and saw that she was about to walk into a wall. He instinctively wanted to stop her, but he held himself back and wanted to see how she reacted. As he watched on, Liu Kaimai slowly walked forwards, slowly coming into contact with the wall. However, a confusing scene unfolded. The moment that Liu Kaimai came into contact with the wall became illusory and allowed Liu Kaimai to pass through. This process was incredibly natural, as if that wall did not exist. During this time, Chen Heng also watched Liu Kaimai's expression. Her expression was completely normal, and there were no abnormalities. From how it seemed, she really did not see anything and was not merely pretending. Just what was going on? Looking at the wall in front of him, Chen Heng testingly stretched out his hand. A corporeal feeling could be felt through his hand. He could clearly sense what he was touching. It felt just like a real wall. At that moment, Chen Heng's heart trembled. Junior apprentice brother Chen, aren't you going to come over? Liu Kaimai's voice sounded out from ahead. Liu Kaimai and the others had already walked in and were calling out to Chen Heng. Chen Heng instinctively looked up and was once again stunned. Ahead, Liu Kaimai and the others were standing there, but they looked different. Liu Kaimai's face was covered with wounds, and as she stood there and waved her hand at Chen Heng with a smile on her face, he could see that her eyes were filled with blood. Beside her, the others were the same. Their bodies were covered with wounds and blood, making them look like corpses. Their faces were dark but they were smiling, making them look quite terrifying. Even though Chen Heng's mind was quite strong, his footsteps faltered as he stared. In the distance, eerie singing sounded out. Wandering ghosts who died long ago, why are you roaming my lost heart? When will you return? My beloved, when will you return? I am lingering in dreams, waiting for you. It was a girl's voice, and it sounded both like the beautiful voice of a star, as well as a mournful cry. The singing was quite loud and brought with it a trace of coldness, causing Chen Heng's hairs to stand on end. The singing was accompanied by a haziness that lingered in the surrounding air. Liu Kaimai and the others were still smiling, and their smiles looked even more terrifying. Junior apprentice brother Chen, you're not going to come over? The cold voice continued to sound out. Chen Heng came back to his senses, his back covered with cold sweat. However, looking at Liu Kaimai ahead, he only smiled and said, no, I don't think I will. Senior apprentice sister, it's nearly time, shouldn't we be leaving? Following this, without waiting for Liu Kaimai and the others to reply, Chen Heng directly turned and left. After he left, within the small alley, Liu Kaimai and the others coldly laughed before following behind him. After walking out of the small alley with Chen Heng, they went through changes again. Chen Heng once again turned back and saw that Liu Kaimai and the others had gone back to their original appearances. However, Chen Heng did not know if it was just an illusion, but Liu Kaimai seemed to still have a faint image of what she looked like before, making him feel quite surprised. Why did you want to leave so quickly? Liu Kaimai felt quite confused. It's nothing. Hearing the familiar voice, Chen Heng smiled. We should be leaving. All right. Hearing this, Liu Kaimai did not say anything else and nodded. Following this, they quickly left. That night, as night fell, Chen Heng once again came to that place. Ahead, the small alley was still there. It was just that for some reason, Chen Heng felt that the small alley had become a bit bigger, as if it was expanding. Am I seeing things? No, I don't think I am. Chen Heng felt quite wary as he thought to himself. He decided to err on the side of caution when approaching this mysterious scene. It was better to expect and prepare for the worst. An expanding alley in the scene during the day. All kinds of thoughts appeared in Chen Heng's mind. In the end, he frowned and decided to do an experiment. Chen Heng turned and left, and he came back after a while. When he came back, he had two drunks with him. Following this, he slowly walked forwards towards the small alley. When he reached the boundary point, he lightly pushed the two drunks forwards. The drunks staggered forwards a few steps before falling down. Following this, as Chen Heng watched on, their appearances quickly changed. Bloodied traces appeared on their faces, accompanied by many wounds. Blood spilled out from the wounds, and bone could be seen through some of them. After the changes, the two people looked like corpses, looking incredibly terrifying and creepy. Looking at them like this, Chen Heng frowned, thinking to himself, what had happened during the daytime had happened to these two people as well. However, Chen Heng did not know what would happen to him if he went in. Perhaps the same thing would happen, and perhaps it would not. After all, he was different from them. He could see this small alley and did not just see an empty plot of land. After doing this experiment, Chen Heng rubbed his forehead and decided to do another experiment. He spent some money to hire some people to drag out the two drunks from the small alley. As expected, after they went in, the same changes happened to them, but after they came out, the changes all disappeared. Chapter 116, Records of the Past. They didn't feel anything. Looking at the departing people, Chen Heng frowned. After those people he had hired had come out, he asked them if they had felt anything. However, their answers were all the same. None of them had felt anything. Those people did not understand why Chen Heng was asking these things and just felt that it was an ordinary plot of empty land. Just like Liu Kaimai and the others, they did not notice the changes to their bodies at all. Chen Heng did not know what kind of power was able to twist their senses, or if he was the one being affected. which was why he saw something different. Just who was being affected? Chen Heng was currently musing over this question. Normally, when everyone around you was not acting normal and only you were normal, it meant that either you were crazy or that you should just calmly continue being normal. Chen Heng did not feel that he was crazy, so he decided to stay calm and act normal. He did not prepare to go into the small alley anymore. However, if he had the opportunity, he could do some more experiments in the future. Thinking he slowly retreated and left. Time gradually passed. Over the next few days, Chen Heng would go out every day and walk around the area of the small alley. Under his observations, the small alley started to go through changes. What Chen Heng had sensed before was not a misperception. As time passed, the small alley really was becoming bigger. As it became bigger, what other people saw became different. They still could not see the small alley, and even if people went in, they would not be able to see anything or interact with it. Just like before, whenever they came into contact with anything from the small alley, they would directly pass through it as if the small alley did not exist. Its existence did not seem to affect anyone, and it only silently existed. The sense of unease in Chen Heng's heart became greater. Even though the small alley did not seem very threatening, it was getting bigger and bigger as time went on. One day, when it took up the entire city, what would happen? Chen Heng could not help but wonder to himself. It was evident that this outcome definitely would not be something good. However, as time passed, Chen Heng started to make some guesses. Perhaps this small alley's existence had to do with demons. The family that Liu Yi was part of seemed to have done great research into demons. After all, the Liu family had been a family that resisted demons from a long time ago. After Chen Heng had entered the Solid Rock School, he had gained some information about demons. Even now, no one knew the origin of demons. According to the Liu family's records, demons had existed since a long time ago. No one knew where they came from, but once they appeared, they would quickly attach to a person's body and cause that person to transform into a true demon. Once the demon was formed, it would quickly grow and become stronger as it killed. Back then, technology had not been very developed, so people could only rely on martial arts to defeat these enemies. As such, in past generations, many creatures had been slaughtered by demons. This was why martial arts were so prolific in this world and why it had such a high status. Only after technology had greatly improved and humans became stronger did the threat of demons become weaker. It was just that demons' power and numbers seemed to become greater as well. At the very least, according to the Liu family's records, even though demons often appeared in the past, they did not appear as frequently as now. They also were not as strong as the demons now and not as difficult to deal with. For some reason, those records kept making Chen Heng think of that small alley. As time went on, the demons' numbers were growing, as was their power, while that small alley was also growing. Was there some kind of connection? Chen Heng could not help but think to himself. Chen Heng also found some other records in the Solid Rock School. In the past, there were some grandmasters who had reached unprecedented levels. In the records left behind by those grandmasters, they seemed to be able to faintly see the outline of another world. During those grandmasters' later years, they would all go through some changes. Some of them went mad as a result, while others became fanatical believers of God. Some were found dead in horrific ways late at night. These records showed that there were some existences that had been hiding for a long time, silently watching the human world. They were mysterious and fantastical, and no one knew where they had come from. Many people took those records as jokes, but Chen Heng took them incredibly seriously and memorized them. He did not know the things that the grandmasters had seen were the same as what he had seen, but this made him feel an incredible sense of danger. If those grandmasters' records were all real, then they all had one thing in common, which was that they were affected by a special power, resulting in horrific ends. If the start of being affected by that power was seeing another world, then Chen Heng felt a chill in his heart. This sounded incredibly familiar to what had happened to him. Had he encountered what the previous grandmasters had encountered? Would those things also happen to him? Chen Heng could not help but wonder about this. He sat there for a long time before giving a long sigh. Following this, he looked down. 2151. The familiar line of text appeared before his eyes. If everything he had read was true, then the only thing that could prevent that fate seemed to be the simulator. If he could become strong enough, nothing would be able to affect him. I wanted to wait for a bit longer. Looking at his points, Chen Heng sighed and made a decision. What had happened made him feel very uneasy and nervous. In order to gain more power, he could only give up on staying in the real world for longer. However, it was about the time he wanted to go back in again anyways. After all, he had returned to the real world for a few months now and had readjusted again. As such, starting his next journey now would not be too bad. After making this decision, Chen Heng did not hesitate anymore. Following this, the simulation interface began to appear before him, and he saw the name Sorcerer World in front of him. However, different to before, there was another name next to the Sorcerer World. Azure Heaven Realm. Chapter 117. Azure Heaven Realm. Azure Heaven Realm. This was the second world that Chen Heng had unlocked. In the past, Chen Heng had gone into the Sorcerer World many times, but he had never entered this new world before. It would be a good opportunity to try it out. Azure Heaven Realm. It sounds quite different than the Sorcerer World, Chen Heng thought to himself. Just like the Sorcerer World, the Azure Heaven Realm cost 20 points to enter. For Chen Heng back then, 20 points had been a great sum, but now, it was not a big deal at all. You have chosen to enter the Azure Heaven Realm. Please select your identity. Faint words appeared before his eyes, and the familiar interface appeared. Ordinary family. You are born into an ordinary family. Your parents are both ordinary people. Compared to the aristocratic families, your family situation is ordinary. It might be a bit poorer or a bit richer but will still be ordinary. Everything about you will be plain and unremarkable. Points to exchange. 0 to 10,000. Aristocratic family. You are born into an aristocratic family. Both your parents are from aristocratic families, or at least one of them is. Your body has the blood of a cultivator, and you have a much greater chance of having a spirit root. Points to exchange. 100 to 100,000. Cultivator family. You are born into a cultivator family. Both your parents are cultivators, or at least one of them is. You inherit the power of your parents and are born with a spirit root, as well as have a noble bloodline. Points to exchange. 1,000 to 1,000,000. Rows of words continuously appeared, after which a new line appeared. Random. Spend 500 points to randomly obtain an identity. Looking at the options in front of him, Chen Heng felt quite surprised. There's a random option? In the past, the Sorcerer World had not had this option. Was this change because of the new world or because he had more points? After all, in the past, Chen Heng did not have 500 points. Should I try it out? Chen Heng felt quite interested as he looked at this option. He instinctively wanted to try out this option. Even though 500 points was quite a large figure, he could afford it. Let's try it out. In the end, Chen Heng hesitated for a moment before choosing this option. In the blink of an eye, 500 points were deducted. Following this, a massive wheel appeared and slowly spun. Most of the wheel was white, and only a minority of the wheel was other colors. After white, red took up the most space. There were other colors too, and the darker they were, the rarer they were too. It seems simple enough. Chen Heng nodded, understanding the rules. It made sense that the options with less probability were worth more. It was again something that required luck. Chen Heng wondered if he would have sufficient luck. The massive wheel soon began to slow down and stopped in a certain place. Red gold. Looking at the final result, Chen Heng grinned. White took up the most space, then red, then gold. Landing between red and gold was quite good, and it seemed that he had profited. Would you like to begin the simulation? In front of him, the familiar words appeared. Chen Heng nodded and he immediately lost consciousness. A hazy light devoured everything as memories of the past appeared in his mind. When Chen Heng awoke, he found that he had come to another place. Ahead of him was a vast plains, and there were a few carriages traveling, with old horses heavily breathing at the front. Chen Heng was currently riding on a horse. Chen Yu was the descendant of Great Qi's Chen family, and he was a bodyguard of the king of Lunan, Song Qi. This time, they had left Great Qi to escort the Lunan prince to the Chu kingdom as a hostage. On the way, bandits continuously attacked, as well as the northern 9 bandits, wanting to rob the Lunan Prince's carriage procession. Chen Yu led the guards to resist them, but they could not defeat the Northern 9 bandits and were forced to retreat. This start riding on the horse and going through this body's memories. Chen Heng opened his eyes and frowned. Is this good or bad? Being chased down as soon as he started could be said to be a bad thing. However, the power that surged through his body was incredibly real. It was the first time Chen Heng had such power right after descending. This world's background was quite like the ancient times of Chen Heng's world, and it was also focused on martial arts. It was just that compared to the real world, the martial arts of this world were much more exaggerated. In this world, martial arts were quite godly and could change the shape of mountains and rivers. That was what the memories of Chen Heng's body told him. The body that Chen Heng had entered was someone who was a martial artist and was from an aristocratic family, and he was not weak at all. Sitting on his horse, Chen Heng casually punched out. The power coursed through his body before exploding out, causing his chi blood to erupt. It seemed that a single strike could destroy boulders. It was much more terrifying than Chen Heng's peak in the previous simulation. This was the power of the martial illumination realm, and it was incredibly terrifying. From how Chen Heng saw it, even after becoming a great knight, facing his current self, he would not be able to put up much of a fight at all. At most, he would only be able to fight for 10 or so bouts. For him to have such strength right at the start, this meant that his luck was quite good. However, the situation that Chen Heng was in was not very good. Right now, they were being chased down. The Northern 9 bandits were 9 experts who had reached great accomplishment in the martial illumination realm, and all of them were stronger than his current self. These people's target was the Lunan Prince, Song Qi, who Chen Heng was currently escorting. This essentially meant that right after coming to this world, before he could do anything else, he had to fight with 9 experts who were all stronger than him. This situation was incredibly disadvantageous. Chen Heng could not help but frown, and he turned and looked at a carriage by the side. Within the carriage was the Lunan Prince, the person Chen Heng was to protect. Chen Heng began considering if he should abandon this Lunan Prince. If he used him as bait, would he be able to successfully escape? From the previous attacks, it seemed that the Northern 9 bandits' target was the Lunan Prince, who was being sent to be a hostage. With such big bait, as long as Chen Heng remained inconspicuous, he should be able to successfully escape. As for his duty, Chen Heng did not care much about that. If he did not even have his life, what use would fulfilling his duty be? Chapter 118, Foundation Technique. After a while, Chen Heng looked away from the carriage. No matter what he did, he would have to find a suitable opportunity. Sir Chen. As Chen Heng thought to himself, a voice sounded out from the distance, cutting off his thoughts. Chen Heng raised his head, looked into the distance, and saw a young girl. The girl's looks were delicate and pretty, and she wore a simple but elegant robe. She was about 15 or 16 years old and had not yet matured. From what Chen Heng's memories told him, Lunan Prince Song Qi was also around this age. Miss Li. Just as he had always done, Chen Heng lowered his head and asked, "Has His Highness woken up?" During the last attack, an enemy had been able to get close to the Lunan Prince. Although Chen Heng had repelled that enemy, the Lunan Prince had fallen unconscious. It seemed that he had now woken up. Yes. Looking at Chen Heng, the young girl's expression was respectful as she said, "His Highness has woken up and is asking for you." "I understand." Chen Heng nodded and did not say much else. He looked around and made sure there were no abnormalities before getting off his horse and walking towards the carriage. "Is it Commander Chen?" After approaching the carriage, a voice sounded out, sounding a bit weak. Following this, the carriage's curtain was pulled aside and a young man's appearance appeared before Chen Heng. The young man was wearing a golden robe, which looked quite luxurious. His face was quite pale and did not have much color to it. He did not seem to be in good condition. Despite this, the young man had a unique air about him. Even though he was in dire straits, he still seemed somewhat confident. This young man was the Lunan Prince Song Qi, the person Chen Heng was escorting. Looking at this young man, Chen Heng felt a bit surprised. He did not know if it was a misperception, but compared to the Lunan Prince in his memories, this young man seemed a bit different. Even though his appearance had not changed, His attitude and aura had greatly changed, making Chen Heng feel that he was quite different. Compared to looks, changing one's aura was much more difficult. Why had this young man changed so much in just a few days? Chen Heng inwardly frowned and felt that things were not simple. However, Song Chi did not know what Chen Heng was thinking. "Commander Chen, how is the situation in the surroundings?" Song Chi asked with a serious expression. "During the days that your highness has been unconscious, some bandits attacked but your subordinate repelled them. Recently, things have been quite calm." Chen Heng's expression was calm and steady as he said, "I trust that in a few days, your highness should be able to return." "It's not that simple." Looking at Chen Heng, Song Chi shook his head. "The Northern 9 bandits are the sovereigns of this plains. Those bandits are just their scouts. Now that they have discovered our position, they will most likely attack soon, perhaps even tonight." "Tonight?" Chen Heng frowned. "Your subordinate has already checked and found that there are no scouts in the surroundings. Even if they want to find us, it will be quite difficult to locate us in this vast plains." Song Chi coughed a few times and his expression became a bit cold as he said, "But what if there are spies in our procession and are passing information to them?" "What?" Chen Heng was startled and stared. After the attacks, the owner of Chen Heng's body had felt that something was suspicious, and he suspected if there was someone leaking information to the other side. However, that had just been a suspicion and was not as certain as Song Chi. In the past, Song Chi had always looked weak and meek, and he did not have his own opinions. Why had he changed so much so quickly? Chen Heng was inwardly quite surprised, and his expression was also one of shock. "Commander Chen." Song Chi coughed a few times before saying, "Can I trust you?" "Of course." Chen Heng nodded with a serious expression. "Your subordinate will follow any orders that your highness gives." Song Chi nodded before saying, "Very well." "Come closer." Chen Heng felt a bit wary, but he slowly approached with a serious expression. Song Chi pressed his hand against Chen Heng's head, and a wave of information flooded into Chen Heng's mind. This information was initially quite chaotic but was soon organized into complicated characters, forming a mysterious and extraordinary technique. Bright Moon Foundation Technique. This is. Chen Heng's eyes widened as he looked at Song Chi in shock. Right now, his surprise was not an act. Based on the memories from this body, this world was a martial arts world, and the martial arts experts could move mountains, topple seas, and face entire armies by themselves. However, what Song Chi had given him belonged to another system. It was a cultivation system that used spirit chi to build one's body as the foundation. This was a cultivation technique, and it was extremely different than normal martial arts techniques. The royal family has many collections. Song Chi's face was pale as he looked at Chen Heng and said, "This was a cultivation technique I received when I was young. It is the legacy from an ancient cultivator. Now, I give this technique to you." It seemed that those actions had used up much of his strength. Standing in front of him, Chen Heng fell silent. An ancient cultivator's legacy. He thought back to the identity options when entering the Azure Heaven realm. One of them was a cultivator family. It seemed that just like in the sorcerer world, where there were sorcerers and knights, there were cultivators and martial artists in this world. He wondered how different they would be. "I had given you my most valuable possession. I wonder if Commander Chen is willing to give me his full trust and confidence," Song Chi said as he looked at Chen Heng. Currently, he felt incredibly anxious. He knew that his actions were incredibly risky. However, given his understanding of his predicament and his trust towards Chen Yu, he had chosen to take this risk. Chen Heng remained silent for a while before speaking. "I am willing to serve your highness to the death." Within the carriage, Chen Heng remained silent before raising his head and saying earnestly, "I am your highness' guard and should serve your highness loyally regardless. That's enough for me." Hearing this, Song Chi smiled. He knew that given this person's personality, since he had said this, there would not be any changes. This step of the plan had succeeded, and now Chen Heng stayed in the carriage for a while longer before leaving. After getting out of the carriage, his expression was the same as always, as if nothing had happened. Chapter 119, Decisive. This just what is with that person? After getting off the carriage and thinking about what had just happened, Chen Heng could not help but frown. Even though Song Chi was a prince, He had never had his own independent thought and was not very favored among the king of Qi's many sons. Ordinarily, he would become afraid if he spoke much with Chen Yu. However, today, he seemed completely different. Not only did he say so much, but he was also completely calm. He knew the circumstances clearly and could immediately act, using a precious cultivation technique to rope in Chen Heng. Chen Heng was unable to reconcile this Lunan prince and the one in his memories. Is he the disciple of an immortal? Thinking about what Song Qi had said, Chen Heng thought to himself. It seemed that this person was the descendant of an immortal and had been taught by an immortal before, which was why he knew a cultivation technique. The way he had passed the cultivation technique was also through a certain skill. However, Chen Heng felt that something was off. If he really was the disciple of an immortal, why would he be in such dire straits? Moreover, while he was in danger, where was that immortal teacher of his? Furthermore, he had been scared unconscious by a few ordinary bandits a few days ago. Chen Heng continued to think to himself as he frowned. From how he saw it, perhaps Song Qi was putting on an act so that Chen Heng would take him seriously and would not look down on him. However, Song Qi's actions really did back up what he was saying. That transmission was one of them, and he had also said that if Chen Heng had any difficulties in cultivating the foundation technique, he could ask him about it. Just what is going on? Chen Heng's gaze was calm, but inwardly he felt incredibly confused. Within the carriage, Song Qi's emotions were in turmoil as well. Whether things succeed or not depend on tonight. Within the carriage, Song Qi lightly sighed. If things are like in my previous life and I'm captured again and am tormented before I finally regain my freedom, what would be the point in me living again? Indeed, the current Song Qi was different than the Song Qi of the past. His current self was completely different, because he had decades of memories of the future. In Song Qi's memories, tonight, the Northern Nine bandits would attack with the help of a spy among them. After an intense battle, he would be captured and brought before the Northern Nine bandits. He would be imprisoned for 15 years before he could find an opportunity to escape. During those 15 years, he would suffer immense torment at the hands of the Northern Nine bandits before being able to leave and starting over. By then, Great Qi had perished and he found the truth from the ruins of the Great Qi. There was a reason why the Northern Nine bandits had attacked him. They had been employed by the Queen of Qi. As for what the reason was, Song Qi did not know. All he knew was that if he did not do anything, he would become a prisoner for the next 15 years. This time, he might not have the luck to survive 15 years and escape. As such, he had to change this situation. Right now, his only hope in turning the situation around was Commander Chen. Commander Chen came from the Chen family and was an exceptional figure. From what Song Qi remembered, Commander Chen had survived the attack from tonight and was able to escape. In the following few decades, Commander Chen obtained some opportunities and became a major figure. As long as he was willing to protect him, with Song Qi's own schemes, perhaps he would be able to escape from this danger. As long as he could leave this place, with Song Qi's understanding towards the future, he would be able to quickly regain his cultivation and obtain many fortuitous opportunities. When that time came, he would be able to rush to the sky and do what he wanted to do. In my previous life, by the time I had regained my freedom, Great Qi had already perished. However, in this life, thinking about how he had been imprisoned for 15 years because of the Queen of Qi, a hateful look appeared in Song Qi's eyes. As he thought to himself, he heard some footsteps from outside. Your Highness. Outside, Chen Heng's voice sounded out. It is getting dark. You should get ready to rest. Chen Heng sounded quite sincere. Song Qi quickly understood Chen Heng's intentions. At night, everyone around them had fallen asleep. A bonfire was still burning, and Chen Heng sat in front of it by himself, a peaceful look on his face. The night began darker, seeming quite murky. After a while, Chen Heng silently got up and looked at the carriage. In the depths of night, horse hooves could be heard, accompanied by shouts. Hearing these sounds, Chen Heng came back to his senses and looked into the distance. It's begun, he said with a serious expression. Song Qi came next to him and also looked into the distance with a grim expression. The two of them had left the procession without anyone else noticing, and they had come here. Those people came just as your Highness said, Chen Heng said. It's a pity. What pity is there? Looking into the distance, Song Chi's expression was difficult to ascertain. Some of them were innocent and were abandoned by us too, Chen Heng said with a calm expression. The enemy's spies were likely among those people, but even Song Chi did not know who they were. Moreover, when escaping for their lives, every extra person they brought would put more pressure on them. That was why they had decisively left behind everyone else. Among those left behind by them, there were most likely spies, but most of them were probably innocent people. It was easy to guess what their outcome would be. We had no other choice, Song Chi sighed. Even if we were there, nothing would change. From what Song Chi remembered, one of the Northern 9 bandits had personally acted in this attack, and he was a martial artist at great accomplishment in the martial illumination realm. Facing a martial artist like that, even if they had stayed, they would not have been a match for him. In actuality, based on original history, facing an attack from a martial artist like this, only Chen Yi had been able to escape. Everyone else, including Song Chi, had been captured and had not been able to retaliate at all. Let's go. After looking over for a while, Song Chi looked at Chen Heng and said, we're only temporarily safe. After a while, they will catch up at some point. Even if there were no more spies among them, that did not mean they were completely safe. At the very least, there were methods in this world to find people, so they were far from being safe right now. Chapter 120, Investment. They walked in the plains for a long time. It had been many days. After so many days, nothing had changed. The plains were still calm, and apart from the two of them, there was no one else. It was as if they were the only two on the plains. Chen Heng did not believe that this was actually the case, but given that no one had found them, this was naturally good and he could not complain. Night fell again. The sky became darker and the moon became brighter, and Chen Heng stood by himself as he looked at the bright moon in the sky. The moonlight was very bright, and the silver moonlight cascaded and covered the land. Under the moonlight, bits of silver spirit chi were being controlled by Chen Heng and were slowly fused into his body. As the silver spirit chi fused into his body, some changes immediately happened in Chen Heng's body. In a certain place under his chest, there was some kind of power being nurtured, preparing to explode out. This was the result from Chen Heng's cultivation over the past period of time. After receiving the Bright Moon Foundation technique, Chen Heng had tried to cultivate it and gather spirit energy. The Bright Moon Foundation technique was a foundation technique that used the body's chi blood as a foundation to control spirit chi. If one wanted to cultivate this foundation technique, you first required a powerful body. The stronger one's body was, the faster one would be able to cultivate this foundation technique. Chen Heng did not have any problems in this regard. After all, he was someone with martial illumination realm cultivation and his body was stronger than any body he had ever had. Just a slight tremor from his chi blood could shake the surroundings. It was incredibly powerful. Using such a powerful body to cultivate the Bright Moon Foundation technique was no problem at all. However, apart from having a powerful body, one also needed a strong soul. From how Chen Heng saw it, the so-called soul was most likely the mind. Chen Heng did not have any problems in this regard either. After Chen Heng had descended, even though his body's strength had not increased by much, his mind was incredibly strong. His powerful mind and body caused his progress in the Bright Moon Foundation technique to become much faster than he expected. Perhaps this is why this identity is so valuable. Thinking about his progress over the past few days, Chen Heng thought to himself. His cultivation speed over the past few days was simply too astounding. No matter how he tried to explain it, he had gained a preliminary understanding of the Bright Moon Foundation technique in just a few days, and he had even successfully internalized spirit chi. He seemed to have incredible talent in this regard, and it was as if he had a divine blessing when cultivating. In fact, it did not seem to just be for the foundation technique but for other things as well. Over the past few days, Chen Heng had also tried out cultivating the body forging technique. In just a few days, the progress he had made was astounding. It seemed that apart from having a good foundation, this body had extremely strong talent. It could learn anything incredibly easily. At first, Chen Heng was quite shocked initially, but he gradually became used to it. After all, it was an incredibly rare red gold identity that he had rolled. It was definitely special in its own ways, so this was to be expected. On the other hand, Song Chi did not seem to be surprised at Chen Heng's progress either, as if he completely expected it. Over this period of time, Chen Heng had also made guesses towards the changes in Song Chi. It was impossible for someone to change so much so quickly for no reason. As such, there were a few possibilities for this. The most likely possibility seemed to be that he had been possessed. This world's cultivators had all kinds of incomprehensible techniques, and some could allow cultivators to possess Song Chi. Otherwise, how could Song Chi's personality have changed so much in just a few days and for him to be able to easily take out a cultivation technique? Of course, there were other possibilities, but none seemed as likely as this. Technically speaking, he was not far off. Song Chi had been possessed by his future self. Chen Heng had also thought about plans for the future. This world had martial artists and cultivators. Right now, through Song Chi, he had obtained a cultivation technique. It had not been easy to obtain this opportunity, so he naturally had to use it well. He at least needed to collect information and techniques to prepare for his next simulation. As such, Song Chi, who had been possessed, was Chen Heng's focus. Since that person had been able to possess Song Chi, he was most likely a cultivator and a major figure. Such a major figure would naturally have much information and techniques. Staying by his side for now would not have any downsides. No matter what, I won't be making a loss at least. Sitting in front of an empty area and looking at the tent in front of him, Chen Heng thought to himself. He had spent 500 points on this simulation. This was the first time Chen Heng had spent so much on a simulation before, but Chen Heng did not have extremely high expectations for this simulation. He would be happy as long as he could make back the number of points he had originally spent. It seemed that he was not too far away from this goal. Just the Bright Moon Foundation technique was almost worth it. Adding on the existence of Song Chi, if he could gradually get more information and techniques out of him, he would most likely be able to break even soon. Chen Heng rubbed his chin and thought to himself. From how things seemed, breaking even would not be a problem. Currently, Chen Heng was thinking if he wanted to continue to invest in this current simulation. As he thought, two cards appeared before him. Both of them were white-colored with a bit of red and had different words on them. Basic body forging technique. Night talent. They're just white-red grade. Looking at these two cards, Chen Heng thought to himself. Just like his identity, the things he received from the prize wheel were split into different colors and different grades. Both the basic body forging technique and night talent were white with a bit of red, which was far below the red gold of his identity. Looking at the cards, Chen Heng made up his mind. Let's go it a shot. Looking at Song Chi beside him, he smiled and thought to himself, I hope you won't make me suffer a loss. With a thought from Chen Heng, the two cards quickly descended and slowly fused into his body. The basic body forging technique card had the fastest reaction. Great energy flowed into Chen Heng's body, and in an instant, Chen Heng felt as if his body had gone through some kind of baptism. His powerful chi blood once again surged and became even stronger. When Chen Heng fused the basic body forging technique into his body also inherited his completion cultivation. This seemed to cause a chain reaction in his body. Compared to the strength that this body had, mere body forging completion power seemed a bit weak. However, different from the chi blood martial arts that this body cultivated, the real world's body forging technique was more holistic. Although basic body forging techniques were indeed basic, given that they had been developed with the help of modern science, they were able to help a person set up a very good foundation. As such, combined with Chen Heng's body, it created a unique reaction. As Chen Heng's body forging completion cultivation returned to him, some parts of his body that had never been trained gradually became stronger, starting from small places that spread to the rest of his body. Chapter 121, Conversion. Without anyone else knowing, changes were going on within Chen Heng's body. His surging energy became more and more powerful to the point that even he was quite shocked. I'm already near great accomplishment in martial illumination. This body of his had originally been at the martial illumination realm, but he had been still quite a distance away from great accomplishment. Now, with the manifestation of his body forging completion cultivation, it seemed that it had given him a big push. Now, he was not too far away from great accomplishment in the martial illumination realm. It seems that stacking different systems is not always 1 plus 1 but sometimes produces greater effects. Sensing the changes in his body, Chen Heng thought to himself. It was just like how the body forging technique and night breathing technique synergized together as well. It seemed that the body forging technique and this world's martial arts had similar effects, if not greater. From how things seemed, using the body forging technique card was quite worth it. Following this, Chen Heng turned and looked to the side. The night talent card was still descending and was being converted. Conversion in progress due to the difference in worlds. Faint words appeared before Chen Heng's eyes. It needs to be converted. Chen Heng was not surprised and only silently waited. Different worlds often had different rules. As such, some things that could exist in some worlds could not exist in other worlds. As such, they had to be converted to become things that were appropriate for the current world. This was one of the simulation's rules that Chen Heng had long since known about. Currently, he felt quite excited. He wondered what the night talent from the sorcerer world would be converted into. He sat there and slowly watched the night talent card being converted. As time passed, Chen Heng began to feel further changes in his body. Near his heart, a strange energy rushed out, bringing with it a unique feeling. Bang, bang. The sound of his heartbeat continuously sounded out, sounding vigorous and powerful. A new energy appeared within Chen Heng's body. It was similar to life energy but also different. At that moment, Chen Heng could feel his power once again increasing. He could even tell that with a single thought, he could enter a unique status and ignite his chi blood to go into an ignition state. It was like a knight's life ignition. Ignition, eh? Chen Heng nodded and smiled. Not bad at all. In the sorcerer world, knights could stimulate their life seeds to temporarily obtain great power. Now, Chen Heng seemed to be able to do the same thing in this world. It was just that the way that it manifested was a bit different. However, it was evident just how much stronger this would make him in battle. It was incredibly necessary in their current situation. Thinking to the, Chen Heng looked into the distance. It was currently night time, and the surroundings were quite dark. A faint breeze blew over the grass, and soft rustling sounds sounded out from small animals. Everything seemed incredibly peaceful and calm. Sitting there, Chen Heng smiled and looked forward to the future. The next day, sunlight shined on the ground. Song Chi woke early in the morning and looked out. Not too far away, Chen Heng was sitting there by himself, his body covered with dew. It seemed that he had stood guard for the entire night and had not rested. Looking at him like this, Song Chi could not help but feel respect. Since a few nights ago, Chen Heng had been standing guard at night, warily watching the surroundings. He never let down his guard from morning until night. Putting aside his strength, just this loyalty was a very rare characteristic. There was no doubt that Chen Heng was doing his job incredibly well. Apart from him being very strict on himself and responsible, he was a rare genius. From what Song Chi remembered, after 15 years, Chen Yi had already become a famous enlightened master. When Song Chi had died in his previous life, Chen Yi had still been alive and defeated many strong enemies. He had also been on the brink of becoming a true lord. It went without saying that Chen Yu was a rare genius in the way of cultivation, and he had only been inferior to some monstrous geniuses. What was key was that compared to those monstrous geniuses, true Lord Chen's personality was dignified and righteous. He was incredibly famous in many regions. In his previous life, after finding out that Song Chi was still alive, he had personally visited him and apologized for not being able to save him. He had also helped him much and given him the feather scripture that he wrote himself. This kindness was something that he could never forget. Furthermore, Chen Yi had helped him much over the following years as well. Such a person was the best card Song Chi could find for now. The other geniuses were either incredibly arrogant and could easily turn against him or would not listen to him at all. Only Chen Yu was a decent choice. As long as he deepened his connection with him, based on his understanding of Chen Yu, perhaps he could bring him under his command, making him his trump card. Thinking to the, Song Chi smiled, feeling quite amused. In my previous life, it was you who passed to me a cultivation technique, allowing me to enter the path of cultivation. Now, it is reversed. Looking at Chen Heng in the distance, He smiled and thought to himself. Sometimes, fate was very amusing. In this past life, it was Chen Ye who had begun his path to cultivation, but now, it was Song Qi who had given him a foundation technique before he had obtained any opportunities. "You've woken up, Your Highness." In the distance, Chen Heng turned and looked at Song Qi before saying, "Have some food before we set out." "All right." Song Qi nodded and did not say much else before he picked up some bread and began to eat. The bread did not taste very good, but because the two of them were running for their lives, they had no complaints. After eating some food, the two of them quickly covered up any traces of them being here before quickly departing. Time slowly passed. 1 month later, they had left this vast plains. Ahead, there was a massive city. The city had tall city walls, on which there were soldiers patrolling. This city looked like a fort and seemed to have incredibly solid defenses. "We've reached North Yuan City." Looking at the city in the distance, Chen Heng was quite surprised. "We were able to arrive so smoothly. This whole time they did not obstruct us at all. Even though we would occasionally encounter some bandits, we did not face any of the Northern Nine Bandits people." Ordinary bandits were not a threat to Chen Heng and Song Qi at all. Even though there would often be many of them, they were not a match for Chen Heng. "It is indeed quite strange." Song Qi also looked a bit confused. Chapter 122, News. In actuality, Song Qi did not know too much about the details of some matters in his past life, but there was one thing he was clear about. The Northern Nine Bandits had been working on instructions of the Queen of Qi. Since the Queen of Qi had given the order, the Northern Nine Bandits would not dare to disobey and would definitely do all they could to capture Song Qi. Before, they had made preparations to fight with the Northern Nine Bandits, but they never thought that their journey would go so smoothly. It was as if the other side could not be bothered with them anymore. What was going on? Song Qi frowned and could not understand. There seemed to be a lot more people than before. Chen Heng said. Riding on his horse, he looked around. From what he sensed, there were indeed more people around. In the past, when they traveled through the northern plains, there were not many people around. Only some merchants would travel this route, trading with the people who lived on the plains. Overall, this region did not have many people and was quite desolate. However, Chen Heng felt that something was different. Around them, there were many figures walking about, creating a bustling scene. Moreover, there was something special about these people. They all had bows and arrows or swords, and all of them had weathered and hardened faces. Chen Heng could tell at a glance that some of them were competent martial artists and were quite strong. These evidently were not natives of the plain, and they were instead outsiders. Chen Heng wondered what had happened here to draw so many people here. Please wait, Your Highness. Chen Heng looked at Song Qi and said before riding over to those people. After asking them, he received an answer. It was said that recently, a rumor spread that there was an ancient historical remnant discovered in the Kai Mountain north of North Yuan City. It was said that it was a historical remnant left behind by the 10,000 sword manor from 1,000 years ago. Originally, an ordinary farmer had found it, and he brought out a precious sword made of essence gold. That farmer did not know how valuable that sword was, and he thought that it was just a good sword, and so he brought it to the market to sell. However, this caught many people's attention. After being harassed by many people, he revealed the secret about the historical remnant, causing much shock. So it's like that. After Chen Heng told Song Qi about this, a look of understanding came to Song Qi's face as he suddenly remembered something. I forgot about that. He sighed and understood what was going on. Back when he had been captured by the Northern Nine Bandits, he had been imprisoned by them in their headquarters. However, he heard about what had happened during this period of time after he escaped. If he remembered correctly, there were indeed some things happening around the North Yuan City around this time. A historical remnant had been discovered, and it had been misidentified by people as a historical remnant from the 10,000 sword manor from 1,000 years ago, which caused a big uproar. This historical remnant caused great waves and dragged many people in. It was right around this time, so it was most likely this historical remnant. They were attracted over by the historical remnant, so they could not be bothered chasing after me. Thinking about this, Song Qi could not help but inwardly coldly laugh. Even the Queen of Qi, who had ordered them to capture him, most likely did not take him too seriously either. Back when the Northern Nine Bandits had nothing else to do, they naturally put their attention on him. However, now that the historical remnant had been discovered, their focus had shifted. It was most likely the Queen of Qi who had ordered them to shift their attention to the historical remnant, which was why they were no longer trying to hunt him down. The 10,000 Sword Manor was a holy land of martial arts 1,000 years ago, and the 10,000 sword technique was a shocking and famed divine ability. It was said that within the 10,000 Sword Manor, there were countless precious swords, each of which worth as much as a city and had unique powers. Ordinary people who wielded the precious swords would be able to defeat powerful martial artists. It was evident how powerful those swords were. As such, a historical remnant from a holy land like that was incredibly tempting. Even the great Qi's royal family had gone to explore this historical remnant. However, it was a pity. Song Qi coldly laughed. It was a pity that the historical remnant was not a historical remnant of the 10,000 Sword Manor like everyone thought. This was not a historical remnant of the 10,000 Sword Manor. Rather, it was a historical remnant left behind by the 10,000 Sword Manor's origin, the 10,000 Wave Sword Sect. The 10,000 Sword Manor was a holy land for martial arts. But all cultivators knew that it was actually a cultivator faction. It was just that different to most cultivator factions, which hid themselves away. The 10,000 Sword Manor had great fame but disguised themselves as an ordinary martial artist faction. In actuality, the 10,000 Sword Manor's founder was a legacy disciple of the 10,000 Wave Sword Sect. Because they had the same origin, in Song Qi's previous life, most people thought that this was a historical remnant of the 10,000 Sword Manor. After all, because of the connection between them, there were many similarities and even some techniques were shared. As time went on, more and more people began to take notice of this historical remnant. Soon, many true cultivators came, causing the situation to change. Great Qi being destroyed in Song Qi's previous life was also related to this. It was just the start right now. So everyone still thought that it was a historical remnant left behind by the 10,000 Sword Manor. An opportunity. That was what Song Qi thought. After he recovered some of his strength in a few months, and adding on Chen Heng, perhaps they could try to obtain some benefits from the historical remnant. If it was after some time and the truth about the historical remnant was exposed and many true cultivators came, he would not dare to think about such a thing. After all, cultivators were much stronger than martial artists, and there would even be enlightened master-level cultivators. If he dared to go to the historical remnant, then he would be seeking death. Right now, news had not spread much, so there were just some ordinary martial artists. If he did not dare to make a move, it would be a waste of this opportunity. Thinking he turned and looked at Chen Heng. He began to consider how to convince Chen Heng to go with him. His cultivation had not yet recovered, and even though he had some small tricks, his strength could not compare to Chen Heng's, who was at the martial illumination realm. If he could bring Chen Heng with him, he would have a much greater chance of success. It was just that convincing Chen Heng would not be so easy. At the very least, he needed a decent reason. Does your highness want to go there and have a look? What surprised Song Qi was that before he could try to convince Chen Heng was the one to initiate. Song Qi nodded, not hiding anything. That's right. This historical remnant is an opportunity for us. It is indeed an opportunity, but it might be too dangerous, Chen Heng said as he frowned. Right now, the most important thing is to send your highness back. As long as your highness is able to return to the palace, you can mobilize Great Qi's power and come here to explore. In actuality, such a safe course of action was not what Chen Heng truly wanted. Deep down, Chen Heng did not mind what Song Qi chose. He believed that since the old monster who had possessed Song Qi wanted to do this, he must have his own reasons. Chen Heng only gave this suggestion to see what kind of reason this person would come up with. Chen Heng could tell that perhaps Song Qi had been possessed by an old monster, but right now, he was still quite weak. Right now, he needed a loyal protector like him. In other words, this person most likely would want Chen Heng to go with him. Chen Heng did not mind going to the historical remnant with him as long as there were benefits. However, he could not agree too readily. Firstly, it was not consistent with his characterization, and secondly, it would not be as easy to get information out of Song Qi. Since Song Qi needed Chen Heng to go with him, If Chen Heng refused, he would have to bring out more reasons for Chen Heng to go with him. Through this process, Chen Heng naturally would be able to find out what he wanted. Chapter 124, Spirit Grass. Standing there and looking ahead, Song Chi could not help but smile. Because of the difference in information, he was able to sneak into the historical remnant without anyone discovering him. In his previous life, this place had only been discovered after half a year, after which many cultivators had come, causing this area to become quite lively. This meant that he was half a year ahead. The historical remnant seemed quite ancient and dilapidated. Most of the structures had greatly decayed. Song Chi and Chen Heng silently walked forwards. On the way, Song Chi explained to Chen Heng about various things about this historical remnant. This historical remnant was left behind by the 10,000 Wave Sword sect to leave some backup resources for the sect, Song Chi said lightly. Afterwards, the 10,000 Wave Sword sect left this place and relocated elsewhere. 1,000 years ago, the 10,000 sword mana collapsed for unknown reasons, causing the 10,000 Wave Sword sect's final legacy in this land to end. This historical remnant was left behind and was never actually used. Every sect had backup plans like this, let alone the 10,000 Wave Sword sect, which was far above the mortal world. Even ordinary aristocratic families did such a thing and left behind many backup plans. A cultivation holy land like the 10,000 Wave Sword sect would naturally make preparations when they were at their peak so that they could once again rise up if they went into decline. This was just one of them. It was just that the 10,000 Wave Sword sect relocated, so this historical remnant remained unused and undiscovered. Only now did it appear before the world's eyes. Why did the 10,000 Wave Sword sect leave back then? Chen Heng followed behind Song Chi as he asked. The environment changed. Song Chi lightly sighed as he said, this region's spirit chi and opportunities began to go into decline. The 10,000 Wave Sword sect long since predicted this, so they directly left for better places. Chen Heng nodded in understanding. Even though he had not cultivated for long, he understood that cultivators indeed required resources. He had only just begun his cultivation journey, and this would be even more so for those who had traveled this path for a long time. As such, it was understandable that a cultivation holy land would choose to leave because of such a reason. In actuality, it was not just the 10,000 Wave Sword sect. As if he thought of something, Song Chi smiled as he looked at Chen Heng. Back then, many other sects also left this region. That is why there are so many historical remnants and legacies left by ancient sects here. Speaking to the, he paused and gave Chen Heng a deep look. If he remembered correctly, enlightened Master Chen had discovered a secret legacy from a historical remnant, which was how he began his cultivation journey. So it's like that. Chen Heng nodded, not reacting that much. Following this, they continued onwards, and the scenery before them was gradually revealed. A medicinal field soon appeared. The medicinal field was not very big, but it was filled with spirit grasses. The spirit grasses looked like they had grown very well, but they just looked a bit messy. Looking at those spirit grasses, Song Chi stared before an expression of delight appeared on his face. Spirit grasses that have grown for thousands of years, they are akin to king medicines. It's a pity that they have not been properly nurtured for a long time, so their medicinal effects will not be as great, he sighed, feeling a bit of pity. Do we directly go in? Compared to Song Chi, Chen Heng was very calm as he looked at Song Chi. Very well. Song Chi nodded before heading into the medicinal field and began to extract the spirit grasses. His actions were very careful, and he even used spirit energy as he picked the spirit grasses as if he was using special techniques. This is a gathering technique that can preserve much of the spirit grasses' effects. Song Chi looked up and explained, sensing Chen Heng's gaze. Following this, he passed this technique to Chen Heng. Chen Heng gave it a try. This technique was not very difficult, it just required some concentration but used much spirit energy. With how much spirit energy he had accumulated, he could only use it for a short while. He had to constantly stop and cultivate, internalizing spirit chi before he could continue. It had to be said that this body's talent was indeed quite monstrous. Even though he had just learned this technique, it only took him a short while to become proficient at it. In fact, his actions did not seem any inferior to Song Chi's. Looking at Chen Heng's more and more proficient actions, Song Chi could not help but inwardly marvel. Sometimes, comparing with others could make one incredibly frustrated. If it was just in terms of talent, Chen Heng would be one of the people with the best talent. As for Song Chi, even though he had a spirit root, his talent was only ordinary. Compared to people like Chen Heng, he did not seem like much. If he had not returned to his past self, he would be nothing in front of Chen Heng. Song Chi knew this clearly. Only after staying here for a while did they stop. Song Chi looked up and wiped his sweat as he said, "All right, let's go." Chen Heng nodded, but he soon paused. He turned and looked towards a certain corner. "What is it?" Seeing Chen Heng react like this, Song Chi also turned and felt quite curious. "There's someone," the Chen Heng said as he frowned. Just then, he had sensed a gaze. Even though it was very faint, he had definitely felt it. It had only been for an instant before disappearing, as if it was an illusion. However, given that they were in such a unique place, he could not just shrug this off. "There's someone there?" Hearing Chen Heng's words, Song Chi felt quite startled and looked over. Over there, there was a ruined structure, but no one was there. However, Song Chi did not dare to question Chen Heng's senses. After all, Chen Heng was at the martial illumination realm and was equivalent to a chi refining cultivator. Chen Heng was much stronger than him right now, so it made sense that he could sense things that he could not. It was just that from what he remembered, this region should not have been discovered yet. Right now, it should just be them who were here. Who else could be here? Song Chi could not help but feel confused as he looked at that corner. "What should we do?" Chen Heng looked away and asked, "Do we keep going?" After harvesting that medicinal field, they had obtained much spirit grass, which was quite a big gain already. Even if they left now, they would not make a loss. Chapter 125, Sword Spirit. "It's fine." Song Chi shook his head and said decisively, "Let's keep going." On the path of cultivation, nothing went exactly as one wished. Every enlightened master had to face all kinds of difficulties, obstructions, and dangers on their way. On the path of cultivation, many people fought for their lives for a bit of spirit stones and risked their lives for some resources. Compared to this, what they had encountered was not much. Even if there really was danger, he would not frown at all. Furthermore, the historical remnant they were in right now had things that were much better than ordinary spirit materials. Just the spirit grasses that they had just collected could cause a storm of blood and many people to risk their lives. If they just left like this in the face of a rare opportunity like this, Song Chi would never be able to forgive himself. Moreover, from what he had heard in his previous life, this place did not have much danger. At the very least, he had not heard of anything during his previous life. "All right." Hearing Song Chi's reply, Chen Heng nodded and had no objections. He did not know if Song Chi knew something, or if he was just unwilling to give up on this historical remnant. However, no matter what it was, he was not going to say anything. After making this decision, they continued onwards. Soon, they reached an empty and sparse area. Ahead, there were many swords. After such a long time, this place seemed incredibly ancient and dilapidated, but the swords seemed completely fine. The swords did not seem to have been affected by time and seemed incredibly bright, and they gave off faint light. They seemed incredibly extraordinary. Anyone could tell at a glance that they were precious swords. They were all forged with essence gold. Chen Heng glanced at them before thinking to himself, essence gold was a unique type of material that could make incredibly sharp and tough weapons. A single essence gold sword was almost as valuable as a city, and they were usually extremely difficult to find. However, they were everywhere here, as if they were not worth money. Chen Heng was completely dumbfounded. However, after reaching here, the sense of being watched became greater. It was as if there was something incorporeal here silently watching him. Standing there and sensing this feeling, Chen Heng turned and looked at Song Chi. Song Chi was standing in front of a weapons rack and was closely examining a gold-colored sword. He looked incredibly focused and did not seem to notice the gaze at all. Seeing him like this, Chen Heng inwardly shook his head and prepared to say something. In the end, they were on the same side, and their interests were bound together to an extent. As such, he was willing to warn Song Chi to avoid taking a loss. Just as he was about to speak, He paused and felt that something was off. A strange feeling welled up in his heart. Standing there, Chen Heng turned and instinctively looked not too far away. There was a silver sword hanging there. Compared to the other weapons, this silver sword was not very eye-catching and did not look very special. In fact, it was covered in dust and looked a bit shabby. Compared to those weapons made from essence gold, it looked quite lacking. However, at this moment, Chen Heng was drawn over by this silver sword. For some reason, he felt that there was something special about this sword, making him stare at it. As he looked at that sword, the feeling of being watched intensified. Sensing this gaze, he frowned and slowly walked over to the silver sword. Standing before the silver sword, he hesitated for a moment before reaching out and grabbing onto the silver sword. An electricity-like feeling spread through his palm. When he grabbed onto this sword, he could clearly feel that there was a warm current flowing through his body, accompanied by massive amounts of ancient knowledge. In that moment, he seemed to see countless swords being swung and descending, like an apocalypse. The sky darkened and the ground collapsed as even mountains were shattered. A silver sword shot about, linking everything. What is this? In the next moment, Chen Heng suddenly came back to his senses. No need to be anxious, a voice suddenly sounded out within Chen Heng's mind, causing his body to freeze. A massive power appeared. Currently, he could clearly sense that a massive consciousness within the silver sword was awakening, and it had connected to his mind and was speaking with him. "Who are you?" Chen Heng asked as he quickly calmed down. In the end, he had seen much in other simulations and in the real world, so he was able to become accustomed to something like this much faster than native people to this world. "You were able to calm yourself down quite quickly, not bad." The voice spoke with a tone of appreciation within his mind. "Just like you can see, I am the sword spirit of this sword and am also the previous owner of this sword." Sword spirit? Chen Heng frowned. What does that mean? In this world, whether it be mountains, rivers, grasses, or trees, everything has a spirit. In his mind, the self-proclaimed sword spirit spoke. As long as its spiritual nature is strong enough, it can awaken its own consciousness. A sword's spirit is naturally a sword spirit. Sword spirit. Chen Heng understood. This was something quite new. Even though he had gone through a few simulations and had seen Outlanders, it was the first time he had encountered a sword spirit. He had learned something new. Since you're a sword spirit, why do you call yourself the previous owner of this sword? Chen Heng frowned as he asked. That's a long story. The sword spirit sighed and said, "At first, I was not a sword spirit. It was just that after I died, I had to turn myself into a sword spirit. Do you understand? Something like that is possible?" Chen Heng felt quite surprised but did not pay this much mind. Right now, he just had one key question. What do you want?